Hey, bad boys, welcome back to Normies Like Us, the podcast that reminds you it's hip to be square. Today, we'll be web-swinging through the history, present, and future of one of my personal favorite heroes, the ultimate, the superior, the spectacular, amazing. Is he strong? Listen up, bud. He's got radioactive blood, the one and only Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man!
With great power comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man is a scientist?
He's a criminal, that's who he is.
Hey, I'm the hero, remember?
Guy with 8 hands. Sounds hot.
Ayo, bad boys, welcome back. Where action is our reward, we're here to talk all about Spider-Man. I'm Joe.
Hey, yo, this is the amazing Mike.
Ooh, good one, Mike. This is amazing Colin number 3. I don't know.
Spectacular
There
Colin.
we go.
Yeah. Spectacular Colin and his amazing friends.
Yeah. J.
Ooh, I
Jonah
like that
Brooks.
too.
There you go. Any one of those.
Any one of those.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm excited about Spider-Man, you guys.
Yeah,
I know
hey, guys.
Joe is probably the most excited, but
This is one that, like, we were waiting for the PS4 game to come out, and I've been thinking for months, like, we're going to do it. We're going to do a Spider-Man episode, and we're finally here. Definitely one of the ones I'm most excited to
Oh, it's
do.
the big boy.
yeah, definitely. And it's been a while since we've been back in the room. How's everyone doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well. It's been a couple weeks since we recorded some fresh episodes. Got some exciting ones coming up. The month of October right around the corner.
That's right. We're going to be doing the Halloween Spooktacular month, so we have the Spooktacular kickoff next week, followed by Resident Evil and some other cool announcements coming up throughout October. But for now, it's Spider time.
It's Spider
Which
time.
they're also spooky.
That's true. Well, before we dive into it, you guys want to do a quick what you've been up to, what you've been playing, watching, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Who
That's a
wants to
great
hit it?
idea. I'll tell you guys. I'll go ahead and start. This is a question I have for both of you. I'm playing an RPG game right now, playing Octopath Traveler on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
I hit that point that you hit in RPGs where the small healing items aren't cutting it to heal you. The medium healing items are too expensive. What do you guys do there? You just grind it out?
You got to grind it. I
You
mean,
just
what
grind
else
it
are you
out.
going to do?
Go out and get paid.
Yeah.
Kill.
You got to farm and, sell those wolf hides. Yeah. That's what kind of sucks about RPGs is when it's requisite that you grind,
Yeah,
but
exactly,
it's part of
the
the gameplay
repetition.
loop. Yeah. But,
I mean, just like real life, It's a role-playing game. You got to get out there and hit the grind.
that's
Yeah,
true.
I don't know. I'm so burnt out on just the money traveling. It's like, God, I got to spend some cash on this. It's like, come on. I just want to get rolling. I want to complete this story. I want to get moving.
You got to put gas in your car to get to work.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, but if I just had 50 gold, I could get a medium healing potion. It's just like, oh my God,
Yeah.
just get me out of this.
No.
That sounds like real life, yes.
Yeah.
just get me out of this.
I gotta go run some more quests. I need more healing potions.
Mike, what about you? What have you been playing? What have you been watching?
I haven't been playing too much. I did beat Doom last time we spoke. Great game. We watched Crazy Rich Asians, which is definitely something we would cover on the show.
Oh, yeah. Definitely niche to Normie.
Yeah, definitely. It's good. I mean, it's fine. There's one scene that I think is really cinematic and well done from a craft standpoint. I don't want to spoil it, but it's like near the end of the movie. But it was fine.
I did see it as well. Joe, do you care? I mean, if he's
No, go ahead and spoil the ending of
Mike.
I mean,
Rich Asians.
I know everyone's waiting with bated breath over this, but there's a mahjong scene where the character,
yes. Yeah, that's very
she
cool.
gives the chip away to the mother who hated her for being a poor wife, and gives her the chip that lets her win the game. And then she says in a speech, like, so that way you'll know that I'm going to leave your son so you can be a happy rich mom, but know that I gave you the piece for your victory. And then she shows that she could have won the game if she wanted to. So it's like this cool visual metaphor. I'm like, that's very filmmaking. I appreciated that.
And of course, Mike, you were there the whole time like, oh, this is exactly like when Han lost the Sabah cannon Solo.
Exactly. Just like
Same
that.
thing.
Yeah. So,
Well,
but that's it for me. Joe,
Yeah.
what have you been up to besides Spider-Man?
besides Spider-Man, I mean, the
Nothing.
main thing I've been up to is Spider-Man PS4, which we'll talk all about when we get to the video games segment. I've also done a rewatch, well, not a rewatch, a first run of all of the MCU shows on Netflix that I haven't caught up on. So I did.
Oh, yeah, you were a little behind. So what have you been catching?
Yeah, I did Jessica Season 2, Luke Cage Season 2, and Iron Fist Season 2.
Oh, all the season
Went through
twos.
all
Perfect.
of them, yeah. Just in time for Daredevil Season 3 coming in mid-October. Excited for that one. And, I liked him. I think Iron Fist is the first one that drops to 10 episodes as opposed to the 13. I think that's a way better format for
Helps it
these
out.
types of series. Because, like, I don't know, with Luke Cage, it's like by the time you get to episode 11, he's fought Bushmaster like 4 times. And it's like, it just really kind of feels like you're banging with action figures and just
Yeah,
like,
Bushmaster.
and then they fight again. And it's like,
Right.
I don't need all of that. But like the time you get past episode 10, it's like, I wish it would have just like wrapped up already.
Do you have a top out of the 3? Is it Iron Fist because of that shorter season?
I think Luke Cage had the best improvement of supporting cast members.
Well, you got Misty Knight thrown in there.
Misty Knight really steps up. Black Mariah's like fucking awesome. Bushmaster is a really great villain. Jessica, I think, had the story, but Iron Fist, I would say, had the flow. You know, like it was the first one
something for everybody,
where it
huh?
didn't really drag. Because some of these other shows, and I love them, like they really drag.
Right.
But Iron Fist, it's like the last 5 minutes of season 2, I was like, oh, damn, okay, I'm excited for season 3, which I did not think was going to happen.
Mike, are you caught up on these bad boys?
I'm not one to watch the Netflix Marvel stuff, you know. But to Joe's point, like I see, like even with other Netflix shows, like the Stranger Things season 2 had a tendency to have like filler. Like it was like 2 episodes too long. I think there was a little bit of stuff. So maybe
It's
like
kind of a
saying,
complaint about a lot of Netflix shows, like Disenchantment, the Matt Groening show, like that kind of had the same kind of complaint from some critics
like
and stuff.
that's a network. That's like an AMC problem. That's a Walking Dead problem. Like
Yeah.
a filler for a whole season. Like Netflix can afford to be lean, you know, definitely.
It's interesting that you say that, Mike. I was almost thinking, was it the constraints of TV that made it so good pacing-wise for us for so long? You know,
Yeah.
maybe we're just kind of not used to this new, slower tempo that All at Once can offer us.
I mean,
know.
yeah, yes and no. Like I think sometimes if you get a 13-episode order and you have to fill 13 episodes, you're going to fill 13 episodes, whether or not that's best for the show. And like when you're doing fast-paced action adventure like Iron Fist, 10 episodes is perfect. It's lean.
Yeah,
when you're
it's
doing
like, get
a
it in, get
slow
it out.
burn,
Mystery Jessica.
yeah, then maybe I could see it being better at 13. But again, by the time you hit the 11th episode, it's like, well, I feel like this should wrap up. Like I already
yeah.
got the twist. And now I just have to sit through 3 more episodes of like basically each main character getting their stories wrapped up.
Oh yeah, I mean,
when you
not
could
to,
just do it better.
Not to get into too much because
Yeah.
obviously you don't care about this, Mike. But there's a episode of season 2 of Jessica where she starts to investigate for just the entire episode the security guard who's looking over her mom and is kind of mean. And
Yeah,
it's like,
and
oh,
why?
this is a
I mean, it
side
really
rant
doesn't
that we
do
just
much.
don't even need at
Yeah,
all.
geez.
It's like, wow.
I mean, it's a fine episode. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, that's the return of Kilgrave in her mind, and like that
Yeah,
stuff's
yeah.
great. But it's like you could put Kilgrave in her mind the whole season.
Yeah,
in
sure.
my opinion.
Sure.
And Mike, I'm surprised. Not even the Punisher. You're wearing a Los Angeles Gun Club shirt.
Yeah,
Watch the Punisher.
Yeah. It's just my normal like media ingestion diet is different now. Like we'll do movie night, and so we'll watch like classic movies. Like we're going to do The Breakfast Club on Tuesday.
Ooh, there you go.
We're kind of hitting the, you know, we watched the original Karate Kid, so every Tuesday we watch a movie or something. But the Netflix stuff just isn't really on our radar because I'm not a huge comic book person, but we do watch Stranger Things, and
Yeah.
you know I watch a lot of Star Trek. Like I am perpetually watching Star Trek. You know, like
I
it never
just,
Never
stops.
gets out of rotation.
Yeah.
I took a break from. I finished Enterprise, took a break, did all the MCU shows, and then I'll go back to do Voyager.
Yeah, TNG is just what I throw on when it's like time to clean the house, you know, stuff like that. But
Jean-Luc can get you through those chores.
That's what he's
that's
there
right.
for.
That's right. Jordy knows how to flip some switches and stuff.
Well,
But-
that was the Whatcha. I
That's
think
right.
we're all caught up. We're all best friends. Everything's great. Why don't we dive in and talk about one of my favorite? I'm so excited to do this, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk niche to normie Spider-Man.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the gym.
Well, the best place to start is always the beginning. So why don't we talk a little bit about the comic book origins of Spider-Man? What's your guys' history? What about Spider-Man do you think is niche? What about Spider-Man do you think is normie? Let's get all the basics out here.
I didn't really know about Spider-Man until I was bit by a radioactive comic book. No, I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's pretty much the one we were all probably the most familiar with as kids because you knew that, again, he was a kid, he was a cool young guy, and you could relate to him.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I first interacted with the 90s cartoon, which we'll talk in the movies TV section, but that got me into the comics. Like I said, he's relatable. He's like a kid. He felt like a 24-year-old man in the cartoon, but
well, he was in the cartoon that we grew up with. He's in college.
He's at college.
That's college. Okay.
Yeah,
but we'll argue even further. Again, as kids, and then you're seeing Tobey Maguire, and I knew that.
He
I
was
was
a
like, that's not a
grown-ass
young
man.
man. Yeah, I was like, that's not a child. So Mike, to that point, I would say that cartoon's toys was probably my first time ever seeing something Spider-Man was just going down the toy aisle and just seeing it littered with Spider-Man toys and being like, who is this guy? Who cares? He's awesome.
Yeah.
And like the articulation in those figures were so huge. I mean, those were Toys R Us haunts, man. They were all over the place.
I had like the big 12-inch Carnage figure where you could snap on his blade weapons and stuff. Yeah. I always like the symbiote. So I did get the comic arc, like I mentioned on the very first episode of Normies Like Us. I did own the Venom and Carnage arc of the comic book, and those are the only comic books I really ever bought. So.
Which I think is definitely something where it's like, I would say Spider-Man, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is probably one of the most normie properties that we're doing here. Everyone knows who Spider-Man is and what he's all about.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Great power, great responsibility.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. I mean, so much so that even when they brought him into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we don't even need to see Uncle Ben. We don't even need to see that story because everyone and their mother knows it already.
Right. So is there anything about Spider-Man that's kind of more niche, though? Like if there's a world of Spider-Man?
I mean, I would say definitely like the comic book collecting elements of it are way more niche because those are, just like anything else, comic book wise, like people who are actually collecting the books and things like that are going to know a lot more. Like Amazing Fantasy 15 is definitely one of the biggest books in all of comic book history. I mean, I would argue it's one of the biggest just books in American culture. I mean,
sure.
And what is Amazing Fantasy 15 for listeners?
That is the first appearance of Spider-Man in 1962. And for a long time, it was the best-selling Marvel comic book of all time. And then The Amazing Spider-Man #1 came out a year later. So they saw the popularity of the character. And Spider-Man created by the legends Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. And also some penciling work done uncredited by Jack Kirby. So you kind of have like the three big titans of Marvel comics.
Triple threat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard when you're talking niche to normie with Spider-Man because this is a guy who literally is under the spotlight all the time. And like Joe's saying, is the more niche stuff, this comic book stuff. I mean, here's something. In the first Spider-Man issue, guys, they were getting these out so fast. Stan Lee forgot what his name was post Amazing Fantasy 15. So he just started writing Peter Palmer. He didn't even remember Peter Parker. So that entire first issue, he goes with that name.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, again, he's getting these out so fast and the work was so loose. It was like, who cares? I got to get these out. I got to make some cash on this right now.
Well, basically, I mean, it was... sidekicks were all the rage, right?
Yeah.
And Stan Lee and Steve Ditko kind of had this idea of like, well, what if there was a teenage hero who wasn't a sidekick, who didn't have some sort of mentor pulling the strings for him? He just had to figure it out himself. Teens are buying comic books.
Right.
Teens love comic books now. Why don't we show them a character that reflects who they are? Right. And, it couldn't have been a bigger hit.
No, that's genius. I mean... And then Marvel did a lot of stuff, too, where we're going to create a bunch of characters that kind of speak to different demographics that they can relate to, right? And they still do that today. Even look at Miles,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, doesn't need to be stated, but Spider-Man, bitten by a radioactive spider, gets spider powers, right?
But see, you're saying it doesn't even need to be stated. This is, again, the niche to normie stuff. And again, like Joe said, to not even show that origin in a movie because the audience is like, well, we know who Spider-Man is. Like, that's incredible.
I mean, I would argue it's the same as like, well, Zack Snyder did bother to show it, but like, do we need to see Bruce Wayne's parents shot in an alley to know he becomes Batman? No. I mean, like these origins are so ingrained into American culture. And I would put it even beyond pop culture. I mean, these are everyone knows who fucking Spider-Man is. If I met someone and they were like, "Who's Spider-Man?" I'd be like, "You're a liar." Like,
Yeah,
I just don't
You
believe
are a
you.
space alien from another planet.
You're a Skrull. You did
Like,
not go your whole life and not hear anyone say like, "Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood."
Yeah.
Guys,
Like,
is
no,
the cover to Amazing Fantasy 15 niche? I mean, just out
Right.
of the head, Mike, you're saying you're not a comic book lover. Can you see it in your mind? The swinging Spider-Man holding on to a civilian who's saying like, "Oh my God," blah, blah, blah.
The one when I think of the first thing I saw from Spider-Man, like comic book, as far as the timeline, it was Fantastic Four.
Oh, okay.
With Spider-Man crossing over in there.
That's in the same run. That's in the first 3 issues.
Because I mean,
So
really, like
absolutely.
Spider-Man, like Fantastic Four, which is kind of funny now because they get like the butt of every joke, and they're kind of like one of the least respected properties now. They really started the Marvel universe.
Well, they were the cornerstone
Yeah.
in that they were the bedrock. It was stability. Well, okay, we can debut people in this comic book because we know the Fantastic Four is solid. We know they're selling.
which is Skrulls, Namor, the Defenders, like all of that shit,
Galactus, the Watcher.
Galactus, all of that came out of Fantastic Four.
And now that I'm looking at the Amazing Fantasy 15, super iconic.
Of course,
He's got the webbing under his armpits, yeah.
so
The web wings, man.
And then
Here's something I think is interesting. I think that Spider-Man has become so normie that the elements that were niche are no longer niche. Like the web wings. I mean, that's something that it's like everyone knew what those were, and then they showed up in the Tom Holland Spider-Man, and everyone was like, "Oh shit, he's finally got the
my
web
God.
wings!" And it's like
That cover of that comic book, Amazing Fantasy 15, that Mike just took a look at, that was recreated for Homecoming as a Nerdist exclusive poster. I mean,
Really?
and it's been
come on.
recreated
I mean,
in
that's
countless
awesome.
comic books.
just seeing that iconic pose, and I just saw here that there's a very highly graded copy of that comic book for the low price of $17,900. So
that like actually is kind of love for what it is.
Really?
I mean, this is like, you got to think. I mean, it's like the first appearance of Superman. I mean, it is. These are like highly coveted.
So maybe that, like the very, very early origins, the Peter Palmer stuff, I think that's about as niche as it gets for me because I
Yeah,
had
for
no
sure.
idea that they even got the name wrong.
I mean, like think about how much it's changed just over the course of like the last decade or so. Like when Sam Raimi made his Spider-Man movie, they were like, well, people aren't going to understand web shooters and all that. It's just going to come out of him organically.
Right.
Not anymore. Now people are like, yeah, well, he's a genius. He makes it. It's
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
obviously.
How about this bit of trivia, Mike? The first villain to appear in the first issue of Spider-Man in that Peter Palmer issue. Do you know who that is? He has not appeared in the films yet. I'll give you that hint.
He hasn't appeared in the films. First villain in the Peter Palmer one. Oh, man. He's still around, though.
He's absolutely still around, and the first Spider-Man villain to appear in the comic books.
Wow. Scorpion.
Ooh, good guess. Joe, I would assume you absolutely know, but I'll just go ahead and tell you guys, the Chameleon.
Oh, okay.
A villain I find very stupid, just a Russian
Who's rumored
spy
to
who
be
changes his mask. Yeah, who
appearing
might
soon.
be in Far From Home as the villain, actually.
Really?
Supposedly.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like the Captain America episode, like the Batman episode, talking about a character who has so much history. We're obviously not going to cover everything. It's more just kind of to talk about the basics of the character. And since we can't cover everything that they've gone through, I think we should just kind of talk a little bit about like what the character means.
Well, how about this? Just
Definitely.
going off of basics. I just talked about a character I hate, the Chameleon. I think he's an idiot. Spider-Man has the second best rogues gallery, some people say, against Batman.
Is it
Do you guys
second
have
best?
Well, let's argue about that right now. Do you guys have a favorite Spider-Man villain?
This sounds like we're going into tops or bottoms.
There we go.
All right,
Let's
top
hit
or
it.
bottoms, Spider-Man villains.
Ooh,
Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can hot take it if you guys want a second.
Hot take it. I want to
please.
think for a minute.
My bottom is Mysterio. Is it the master of illusion? I don't know. Maybe it's just his fishbowl. His look just, it's iconic, but it just doesn't do it for me. And then my top,
Quentin Beck, a special effects artist. Mike, I gotta agree. I mean, I'll follow you there. I think
Yeah.
he's very dumb. He's not really doing that stuff. And eventually they say, well, he is doing real magic. He's stealing artifacts from Doctor Strange. I hate that even more. It's like,
So what do you want
well,
from
don't
him?
draw any of that into Spider-Man. Is my issue with it.
And
But
they-
that's kind of what
yeah.
Spider-Man does is hook the universe. I mean, think about like the cartoons
He
and all the
grounds it.
crossover shows. I mean, there's a comic that came out a couple years ago that's Spider-Man and the X-Men, and it's Spider-Man leading a team of X-Men as like a guest professor. I mean, there's tons of like Spider-Man and Wolverine books. Spider-Man and Doctor Strange books.
That just blows
They're
my
all
mind.
there.
Oh, he's the original team up. But top villain then, Mike?
Top villain is easily Venom, but because he's also sometimes a friend, then Carnage. So like the Carnage Venom tandem are my
The
favorite.
symbiotes team.
Yeah,
So you like the symbiote
I love
stuff.
the symbiotes. I'm gonna keep saying it. I fucking love the symbiotes.
Can I say a comic book thing just while we're in the comic book section? Would you like to know the name of the species of what the symbiotes really are? This was revealed in a Guardians of the Galaxy comic book 3 years ago.
I would love that piece of trivia.
They're called the Clintar.
The Clintar.
I really hate that name. Please.
Is that how you say it? Because I've only ever seen it written.
Yeah, I
I've
do
never
believe
heard
so.
anyone say it.
I imagine it's got a Q in it.
No,
It's
like
a-
a Klyntar, I believe.
Yeah,
Clintar.
with an apostrophe
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
the nar.
Obviously, yeah.
Obviously, that's the dialect.
I don't need any of that stuff spelled out.
Yeah.
I don't need to know what the race of the symbiote species is.
So for your Venom, are you classic Eddie Brock?
Eddie
big
Brock
bad?
Venom, yeah. Eddie Brock Venom. I know there's, the guy who's Scorpion becomes Venom.
Matt
at some point.
Gargan's been
Yeah.
Scorpion.
He becomes like a way more evil version of Venom.
yeah.
right?
He's a pretty bad boy.
Then there's Agent Venom. Like there's a bunch of stuff with Venom, but for me, that classic like Amazing Spider-Man era, Venom, Carnage, and then Mysterio.
With Todd McFarlane.
I like that.
who
Yeah,
kind
the
of
Todd
was
Mc- those
a
covers.
huge- I mean, that was the
Mike,
second
the
revival.
slobber, the green, the tongue.
Oh,
Can you just
so
see
much
it? It
texture.
looks so good. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Those covers.
That's-
Joe,
yeah.
I'll go next. I'll let you keep thinking here. I'll tell you my worst. So Hydro Man.
Oh,
That's what I was thinking. He's a Sandman ripoff.
He's a Sandman ripoff. And Mike, are you familiar with this
no,
guy?
this is a deep cut.
So, from the animated series, even, this is somebody who is revealed to be an ex-boyfriend of Mary Jane's, very abusive, ends up in a particle accelerator exactly like Sandman, gets water-based powers.
Okay.
What is that? That's not somebody Spider-Man should be going up against. That is my argument.
Yeah.
No, I mean like the abusive relationship angle too. Like it is something where it's like you could tell they were just running out of ideas, and it's like you have so many more original characters. I hate every Hydro Man arc I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, easily. And then top,
Yes.
the Lizard.
Oh,
Kurt Connors.
that's
That
great.
makes sense.
Kurt Connors is the coolest. Look, guys, it's a basic Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde story, and we see it in Marvel a lot. Look, he's a Hulk ripoff, too. I mean, obviously, that's what it comes down to. But the
Yeah.
fact that he was also kind of a Tony Stark ripoff, a war veteran with an injury who wanted to make himself better. That was Tony Stark's original run,
Yep.
Vietnam. Same thing for Kurt Connors. I just want to grow my limb back.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm such a tragic figure. My wife, all this. Joe, you told me an awesome fact about the video game. I love every Kurt Connors storyline. The one in the video
They
game.
are really great,
Oh,
yeah.
this was the Lizard, blah, blah, blah. That was before he changed and I lost him or whatever. I mean, that's so cool and tragic sounding.
Well, that's another thing about Spider-Man villains in general that I think, like Batman, all of them have incredible backstories. Like even Mysterio, man. I love a disenfranchised,
yeah, well, fair enough.
special effects worker who uses his knowledge of the industry to create illusions and trick people. Like
Even
I
when
think
you get
that's
somebody
cool.
like Shocker who's more towards the goon type, usually they still have a lot of like, but I'm doing it for this reason. And that usually comes
Shocker's
through
one of my
pretty well.
favorites because he's especially in the Ultimate comics, which we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Is my Spider-Man. He's just like the guy who shows up at the beginning of the issue and is down by page 3.
And gets his ass.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's
right.
just there to be like, fucking you again? I got to deal with this
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm late to school. I got to turn in pics to Jay Jonah. Aunt May's mad at me. Mary Jane's mad at me. Everything's going wrong,
Peter
and I got
can
to
get some
fucking deal with
quips
you.
out.
And Shocker shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those
Yeah.
characters, that's true, because even those goon characters, they need to be just as iconic. And
Yeah.
Shocker's a great one.
Yeah, Shocker's
Yeah.
a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Joe,
The top.
The top, it's got to be Green Goblin. Ooh,
wow.
It's
Okay.
got to be Norman Osborn. So not to bring it back to Batman again, but Batman, you got Batman and the Joker, right?
Yeah.
You got your dark, angsty. You got your queer, fun, bright, poppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like your yin and your yang,
there's
right?
a balance there, yeah.
So Spider-Man, you have your poor teenager who nothing ever goes right for.
Right.
And the rich businessman who's a pillar of the
The
community.
wealthy industrialist. I never put that together.
Yeah. I mean, it is like, to me, Norman Osborn represents everything wrong with like
Capitalism.
capitalism and just like the way, like it's, Spider-Man is so much like nice guys finish last. Like Norman Osborn gets ahead because he is a terrible human being.
Right.
He killed Gwen Stacy, which
what a
is
jackass.
I think I would argue one of the most iconic moments in comic book history, and totally changed not just Spider-Man but the face of the comic industry.
Oh, sure.
People
Before
could
impregnating
die
her.
now.
Right.
Like before Gwen Stacy, when people died, well, they'd be back to life. And like, yes, Gwen Stacy technically is back to life now, but she was dead for decades.
Right.
And like the one that's alive now is technically from a parallel universe, so it's not really the same Gwen.
Still very
people.
comic booky.
Boo
right.
all that stuff. Boo, boo.
Yeah.
But like the Green Goblin has shaped Spider-Man in so
He pushes
many
him to
ways.
dark corners.
Yeah.
You think that's his greatest foil?
Yeah, I really do. I think
Against
that there's-
even standing against Doc Ock, you wouldn't say Doc Ock is
I
his
love
arch
Doc Ock
nemesis.
too, but like I
appeared
would say-
before the Green Goblin in the comic books. Doc Ock appears by comic book number 3, we should say.
Yeah, he's one of the most classic. I love Doc Ock too, but I think Green Goblin is just the Norman personality, man. You can't beat it. And like the fact that he's the dad of his best friend, like there's so much history between the two of them, and they've been doing this stance for so long. Doc Ock is way up there too. Kraven the Hunter, way up there. No one brought up Kraven. I love Kraven. Like Kraven's Last Hunt is one of my favorite
Great
books.
comic issue.
Yeah, this Rogues Gallery, it definitely rivals Batman.
I would
when
say
you have
so.
something
It
like
gives
the
him a real
Sinister
run for his
Six,
money.
there's nothing where Joker was like, and we're the bad guy society.
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
like, well, okay.
No, for Spider-Man, they're like, oh, we got to kill this teenager so
yeah,
bad. We'll
like,
put it all
hey, we're
together.
taking this serious. And when a lot of people, I hear a lot of people online say things like, Spider-Man's putting on the Iron Spider suit in these movies now, and he's fighting Thanos. Like, what's the threat in the real world now? I'll tell you, the threat is 6 low-level gangsters with technology beyond their means that they shouldn't be controlling who say, you're a threat, it's time to die.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
That
is
is
so
crazy.
scary to me.
Yeah, we're going to kill this kid.
Yeah.
And for my bottom, I don't know, Hydra Man's like
Hydra
way
Man, maybe.
fucking terrible.
You
I don't
said
like,
Sandman. I'm not a huge Flint Marko fan. I'll tell you that either.
I like him more than Hydra,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah,
and, like, Sandman I respect because he's an OG member of the Sinister Six.
Yeah, you got to give them all up. And that's why you're defending Mysterio as well.
Yeah, he's an OG member of the Sinister Six. Like, all of those guys.
Electro, you love the silly mask.
Electro's
yeah.
super crazy. Electro's just like, oh, what if Shocker was better at his job?
Right.
I don't like the Jackal.
Yeah.
I don't really care for the Jackal.
Miles Warren, a mad scientist who just does weird genetic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
I like the reinvigorated version of them they did when Dan Slott was on the book not too long ago.
Death No More.
Yeah, Death No More, The Clone Conspiracy, I think is what it was called.
Yes.
Like that kind of
Crazy
stuff was
run.
interesting, but the OG Miles Jackal stories, they don't really cut it for me.
Do you have any Morbius fans?
Morbius is all right.
I don't like
a
him at
Blade
all.
villain.
Yeah,
Hey, how about this?
I guess I saw him in the
Can I throw this
cartoon.
out to just blow your guys' mind? How about a guy who made his appearance in a Spider-Man issue as a villain? The Punisher.
I was just gonna say maybe
That's
the Punisher is
true.
my least favorite
Yeah.
Spider-Man villain.
I mean,
I
I
do not
truly
like the Punisher.
just don't want him to shoot Spider-Man. Like, what a weird, tragic ending that is. It's like I went up against these reptiles and stuff, and then my arch villain was a guy with a skull on his chest who shot me from 2 miles away.
yeah.
Then you get stuff like Doppelganger.
yeah.
Doppelganger,
Which is super cool.
Shriek. Like, there's a lot of like crazy. The '90s were a crazy time
Yeah, true.
for Spider-Man. I mean, that was when he
Madam
was like
Web.
really in his heyday. Madam Web. Oh, can I tell you some stuff about Madam Web?
Yeah.
Madam Web in the animated series was voiced by Stan Lee's wife, and like loosely based on her art-wise, which is something where it's like, oh well, Madam Web will always hold a special place to me now.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Yeah, there's, oh man, even the ones who are like kind of minor, like Vulture. I like Vulture.
Yeah.
Like he's fine. Like he's a C-lister, but like he's iconic. You know?
That's somebody that the movie did a lot of work to bring me back from, because as
Yeah.
a young guy, even on that animated series, watching when he had the youth stealing
I
abilities,
hated
I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know about
the
this.
take of the animated series.
Yeah.
'Cause to me, also, there's something like, I don't know, a little punk rock about Spider-Man. Like, you know, he's all of his villains are grown ass people who are trying to kill a teenager.
Yeah.
And like that, like most of them are rich, like Kingpin.
Yep, Kingpin.
You know, like, yes, he's also a big Daredevil villain, but he's a huge Spider-Man villain. I mean,
Yep. and Spider Slayers.
There's issues where Doctor Doom shows up and is even like, man, fuck this kid.
Yeah, like, oh, I want to kill this.
In the Amazing
teenager.
Friends cartoon, he fucks with Doctor Doom a lot too.
Yeah.
Which
When they go to the
I
embassy.
really just love about Spider-Man is like in superhero comics, it's the same story over and over again, right? The hero always beats the villain. They always end up on top. They get the girl. Everything's great. Spider-Man, like, even when he wins, he loses. You know, like Spider-Man is all about tough choices, about loss, about doing the right thing, even if it kills you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, Mike, those first 20 issues, the last pages of them, typically like Joe's saying, where there would be the requiem of, I did it, I succeeded, blah, blah, blah. A lot of the time, it would end with Peter Parker out of his costume, walking by himself, saying, I still need to make money for rent for Aunt May. You know, like, things are still not good for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, oh my God. You know, you read that, he was such a tragic figure back in the day.
I guess too,
I
yeah.
mean, he still is. Like, and that's like kind of one of the things that I really identify with Spider-Man, because it's like, you know, when you read a superhero book, it's easy to be like, oh, they're the best. Everything, the good guy wins again. With Spider-Man, it's like, even when he wins, he loses. Like,
yeah.
No matter what you do, there's going to be tough choices. And, like, you can be Spider-Man all you want, but, like, you still got to pay your bills. Like, you still have to do the right thing, even if you end up screwed for it.
Maybe nothing's ever going to be 100% fine.
No, never. That's the Parker luck.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, losing Gwen Stacy, has relationship troubles, all kinds of stuff. Like he's a regular dude you can relate to.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the villains. I'd also like to talk about the fact that I think Spider-Man has the best cast of characters that are not superheroes. Like the best love interests: Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, Felicia Harding,
Betty Brant.
Brant.
List off 1,000
Yeah,
women. Any woman he comes into contact with is Peter Parker pines for her secretly.
And then you have like characters like Aunt May and Uncle Ben and
True.
J. Jonah Jameson. Like, does any other superhero have a guy who runs a newspaper who's constantly like, "Fuck you, I fucking hate you"?
That feels definitely like the opposite of like Superman Daily Bugle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Or-
like Superman, like they're the Daily Planet's like, you're
Daily
the
Planet.
best, and then like the Daily Bugle and J. Jonah's like, threat or menace or
Spider-Man.
both.
Right on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Get me photos of Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's great. It's like, and it's at your teenage boss. Like,
Yeah.
you work for this dude, and he's kind of an asshole. And
Well, and that's the other thing about Spider-Man. Is like his job
got a
is literally to take pictures of himself that then are used to make him look like a villain.
well, this sounds like Instagram.
Yeah, really.
Basically.
Right. Instagram controversies.
The original job of the Scorpion, Mac Gargan, he was a private detective hired by J. Jonah Jameson because he said, how is this kid getting pictures of Spider-Man?
Wow.
Follow him. Take pictures of him doing it. I think maybe he might even be Spider-Man. Peter Parker was so smart, he caught on that and got him off his trail. I mean,
Right.
you know, again, you know, they're kind of answering questions that I think readers could have had to. Like, it's very interesting how prescient Stan Lee was in his writing. And again, you have to give it up to him as a writer for these early comic books, because this in Fantastic Four, again, he is just pumping out. And they're great.
Yeah, and this stuff didn't exist before. I mean, that's really like, you know, you've talked a handful of times about carving out your own space and like creating a genre. Stan Lee created
It's like,
the
here I
modern
go.
superhero genre.
Excelsior.
And like, yeah,
Stop stealing my blood.
prior to these
elder
kind of
abuse.
pushes, right? Like all this revolutionary work that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and those guys did. It's like comics were like, how can we sell ads to kids?
Yeah.
Just like Saturday morning cartoons, but then you can take it to this level of like artistry and storytelling where there's like morals and stuff you can take away from it. And I guess Spider-Man's chock full of that.
Oh, yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say even more than Batman to me. Like, Spider-Man comics mean a lot. They can teach you a lot. And also, like, you know, it's way easier to relate to a character who doesn't just have everything go their way all the time, and they're not super rich and super charming. Like, Peter Parker is like an awkward kid who
it's true.
doesn't have any money, who lives with his aunt. Like, you know.
Tragedy after tragedy.
Well, who's the guy? Flash Thompson? That's a bottom Spider-Man villain.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it turns out he becomes Agent Venom. He becomes one of his best friends.
Whoa.
Spoiler alert, recently killed in
Yeah.
the comics.
Oh,
he
no.
is dead and gone.
Yeah, there's kind of no background character you can just kind of mention in the Spider-Man lore without just saying,
right.
well, actually, Mike,
There's more, yeah.
he is transformed into 7 different iterations.
Yeah, and
Speaking
he was
out of
also
pocket.
the president of the Spider-Man fan club, which is another great irony of Peter Parker's life. That his
Yeah.
high school bully was also the president of his fan club.
That's super great, though.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of different versions of Spider-Man now. I mean, obviously we have the original, Amazing, Spectacular, Ultimate, right? What's
Spider-Man 2099.
break down for me? Yeah,
Spider-Man
like
2099
what
is
are some
pretty
of the lines of deviation here for the comic world, right?
Yeah, so in Marvel Comics in general, there's the 616 universe, which is the canon world, right?
That is Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Yes. And that universe, you have books Amazing, Spectacular, Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, Sensational. There are tons of books that all take place in that universe.
Got it.
And then there was the Ultimate Universe, which was an offshoot, totally different. It started with the release of the BS X-Men movies and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. They were like, kids are getting more into these characters now. Let's just relaunch. Let's just make it
Which
fresh.
is kind of what they're doing now.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s by Brian Michael Bendis.
And Brian Michael Bendis, one of the most prolific comic book writers of the last decade. And he started Spider-Man issue number 1. You watch Peter Parker get bit by the radioactive spider. He is in high school. Mm-hmm. And that universe runs for a while, and it introduces Miles Morales, who becomes Spider-Man after that version of Peter Parker dies.
Right.
And that book, The Death of Spider-Man.
How'd you take it?
Oh, really rough. I took it real
sad.
rough. Spider-Man doesn't make it out of high school in that universe.
Oh my God! Yeah, we've talked about this
Which
before
is
on the
think
show.
about that. I mean, he literally gets shot by the Punisher
gets a
taking a
bullet.
bullet for Captain America.
And that's like a realistic possibility of a teenager where grown men have firearms and want to kill him.
No,
Yeah.
and he dies in his aunt's arms in front of their house after fighting Norman Osborn.
It's like a reverse of Uncle Ben.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think his last words are like, "I did it. I couldn't save Uncle Ben, but I could save you."
Wow.
And he just fucking dies, and I cried.
And then Uncle Ben takes him to heaven.
Yeah.
Oh.
You did good, kid. And then there's like a 4-issue arc that's like the ultimate fallout, I think is what it's called. And it's just the funeral. And it is so tragic.
Man.
So that's just 2 different Spider-Men. We should mention that there are multiple Spider-Men now.
Yes.
There's female Spider-Men. There's Anya Spinoza, who's the Spider-Woman. There's Gwen Stacy, who's the Spider-Woman from another world, like Joe was just saying.
Who's Ghost Spider now.
Ghost
is what they
Spider
call her.
now. I really don't enjoy that.
No, Spider-Gwen was... I know no one could call her Spider-Gwen because they
Well,
didn't
just
know.
call her Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
So, Ghost Spider.
I
don't
loved
know
the
what's
Spider-Gwen quote. Her like dope hood and like white and black
It's a
outfit.
very cool look.
I think she has one of the top 5 Spider-Man looks.
Oh, yeah.
period.
And those
Yeah, it's really
dope-ass blue chucks that are kind of woven
Yeah.
into a costume. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Mike. And then you have 2099, which in the 90s was a way to recontextualize all the Marvel characters into a new time frame.
They're futuristic.
And there you have Miguel O'Hara, who's Spider-Man 2099, all blue, red skull on the outfit. And we should
Web
talk
wings.
favorite costumes here in a minute because one in general, do you guys like the Spider-Man costumes? But the main point is, as we just listed off from all those people, not only are they different genders, but also races and ethnicities, things like that.
Different
If you're
creeds,
if you're a fan of, if you just even think you might like Spider-Man a little bit, there is a Spider-Man character for you. If you like the cartoon, just funny aspect of it, Spider-Ham, just look up that stuff. Just weird far-sighty aspect of Spider-Man. This is a character that I really think could just be beloved by anybody.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff really came to a head with the event Spiderverse, which is getting a sequel that's going to start coming out next month. And also in December, we got the Miles Morales Spider-Man movie, which is called Into the Spider-Verse.
And it's going to have
yeah.
Gwen in it as the Ghost Spider. It's going to have the premiere
Gwen
of a lot
Stacy,
of cool characters.
Peter Parker, Nick Cage playing Spider-Man Noir, which is a character we didn't talk about, who
Really?
is a Spider-Man in a noir universe.
I was going to mention that for one of my favorite costumes, actually.
It's a pretty cool
very
one.
cool.
Yep.
So why don't we talk about that? Favorite costumes.
Because it is
Just
one of the
in-
most iconic suits, period.
Oh, absolutely. But just in general, it's flamboyant. The blue, the red. Do you guys like the look of it? So in the same way that Superman with the trunks was inspired after a bodybuilder, Spider-Man professional wrestlers. We know that from his history because he went into the ring to try to make money at first. Do you guys like the costume? I like it.
I love it. It's a Power Ranger suit. It's a luchador suit.
Yeah.
I love wrestling. It is very over the top.
Yeah.
And it's just so great. Red, white, and blue. It's America, right? It's great. It's amazing.
Oh, I love it, and I love like almost every version of it that we've seen. The Scarlet Spider, which we didn't talk about yet, is one of my favorite characters in the Spider-Man mythos. He is a clone of Peter Parker who goes by Ben Reilly, who is out doing his own Spider-Man stuff. And that is the the all red with the blue hoodie.
Oh, yeah.
And like the web shooters on the outside of the suit. Love that look.
Just to make things even more confusing, I'll say that my favorite outfit is the Scarlet Spider outfit. Joe, it's not the same one as yours.
The
it's
red
a
and black
different
one?
clone.
Oh,
It's
right.
Kane, the
okay.
opposite Spider clone. Yeah, again, this is the stupid stuff. That,
Yeah.
when I said
The
before,
clone saga is
what
pretty
is the
intense.
niche of Spider-Man? Here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this is not Normie at all. The fact that we can literally say, well, my favorite's the Scarlet Spider. Well, hold on. My favorite's the Scarlet Spider. And Joe and I aren't even talking
Yeah.
about the
It's
same
Ben Reilly
Spider-Man
versus
clone.
Kane. And Kane, he even has like a different set of abilities and stuff. Like he
Can turn into a spider.
giant spider.
He can control
Wow.
spiders. You know, very weird.
He has like a stinger that comes out of the palm of his hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Assassin's
like,
Creed style.
Acid touch.
Yeah, Kane's like an intense one.
Yeah, that's a lot going
Very
on.
cool
He's
looking
the
suit, though,
edgiest Spider-Man. Yeah.
Besides
Black and
Spider-Punk.
red.
Oh yeah,
Spider-Punk, another one of my favorite fucking suits. It's jean jacket with the amazing Spider-Man on the side, the spikes in the
the
top,
spikes on the
red
head.
chucks.
Again, the chucks, because
Yeah.
Spider-Man's really cool and hip. I guess that's what the shoe choice of young,
and that
hip
version
people is.
is not Peter Parker. It's Hobby Brown.
Oh, that's right.
Who is the,
The Prowler.
Prowler in most other universes.
That's good that he changed his name. Prowler's not a good look.
Mike, favorite?
I mean, you just got to go with, a lot of people from the 90s favorite, the symbiote suit. The black
Symbiote
You're
suit's
talking
good.
Spider-Man
all
symbiote
black
suit.
symbiote suit.
See, I like the all black suit,
that's
but
the
not the
coolest.
symbiote one.
So
just
that
the
one's
handmade
called the
one.
90s Back to Black, which is a totally different. They look exactly the same,
Yeah.
but again, two different suits,
Yeah.
guys.
Mary
Very
Jane
strange.
made that one
Yeah.
for him
Right.
after he lost the symbiote suit.
Right.
Yeah,
He
just in
needed-
case
he
you want
needed
to feel
some-
edgy again.
Oh, yeah. As if he needed some formal wear. He's got to rescue
Yeah.
someone at a gala. He can't show up looking like a pro wrestler.
I do have some comic grabs that I hold on to of Spider-Man. He gets hired to be protection for Felicia Hardy at an event, but he can't give away his identity.
Right.
So he's wearing a black tuxedo with
Over
the Spider-Man
spider
mask.
suit, yeah.
That's super great.
Classic.
There's another thing I love about Spider-Man, just a dumb little tidbit. There's a book that came out not too long ago called Spidey. That was just kind of about like year one of Spider-Man. It was a very young Spider-Man. And he's going through a hard time in one issue, and he's just like feeling really disenfranchised. And Captain America shows up and is like, "Hey, little buddy, like I'm going to take you on an adventure, and by the end of it, you're going to remember why it's cool to be a superhero and like why people want to be you, and
Right.
that everything's not all bad." And he says to Captain America, he says, "You want to hear the dumbest thing I've ever done? I did an appearance on a talk show once, but I couldn't tell them my secret identity, so I had them make the checkout to the Amazing Spider-Man."
Oh, wow.
You could never cash it.
That's really funny.
You just got to hold on to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much.
If you just want to talk worst costumes for a second, we talked about their relationship with the Fantastic Four, his best friend Johnny Storm, the amazing bag head when he becomes a Fantastic Four member but can't show off his identity, so he just puts a brown paper bag over his
Oh,
head
God.
and wears the Fantastic Four outfit.
I don't like the Future Foundation
Terrible.
suit either,
Oh, really?
which is almost like a reverse of the symbiote suit. It's white and then black. I don't really care
The
for that.
triangles
That's right, I
definitely
have seen
inspired
that.
for the Homecoming outfit, though. The small outfit with how they do the Future Foundation signal. So
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, it's just not one of my favorites. I hate the Ghost Rider.
Yeah. The Ghost
Spider-Man.
Spider.
Yeah, I hate that one.
Flaming head, blue
I'm not a fan
Spider-Man.
of the cosmic suit either. People
Oh,
like
yeah.
that
I don't like
one.
the cosmic suit.
I think it's just weird looking with like the mouthpiece being the traditional
Triangular.
colors, but the rest of it being all white and black.
I don't like 2099.
Oh,
really?
really?
Yeah.
I like 2099.
I like it when it has the see-through cape webbing.
Yeah.
Cape
I think
that
the cape
comes
is
off
dumb,
of it.
but
Really?
No,
I like that, and I like the new white version of it.
Oh, I don't like that one.
Yeah, see, I like that one.
He just got an armored version.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, Iron Spider's a cool suit too.
Oh, yeah, sure.
There's so much. I mean, he's probably got like 100 suits at least, right?
At
yeah.
this point.
And like, unlike Batman, where they just show these suits like hanging up in a closet and he never wears them. Like, there are adventures where they do wear them.
Yeah, but I do love the idea of, like you just said, he doesn't have a spider cave. It's a Manhattan apartment, so that means somewhere all over his tiny, brownstone that he's paying a shit ton for is just different costumes that he's like, well, I could put this one on tonight.
I guess. Yeah.
But also, a lot of these are different characters. Like no one said Miles' suit is definitely one of my favorites.
it's so
I love the
badass.
all
The
black
red
with the
accent.
red webbing.
Yeah, that's a really good suit.
And like Miles is a character that we didn't touch on much. He is Spider-Man as well. He was in the Ultimate Universe, and then there was an event called Secret War, but not the original Secret War. It was Secret War 2.
Well,
More
not even
secret.
Secret War 2.
Yeah.
Secret War 2 is an event.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. See, this is definitely the niche stuff.
The most secretest war.
But like the too long didn't read it version of it is just that Miles is now in the 616 universe. So there are 2 Spider-Men running around. There's Peter Parker, who is a grown-ass man at this point.
Right.
I mean, he is in his 30s now.
Yeah.
And then there is a teenage Miles Morales.
And some cartoons have tried to label him Kid Arachnid. I think they've really backpedaled on that.
Yeah.
So, God willing.
No,
I
he's
would-
just
I do not
Spider-Man.
want that.
He has a new issue #1 book dropping soon that I'm super excited for called Miles Morales, the Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man. Good for him.
Arachnid Kid. So we know there's a bunch of different comic book universes. There's also a ton of different movie universes now, right? We have 3 different Spider-Man.
We have a lot. There's a lot to talk about in the movies. You guys want to just web swing on?
I was
over
going to
there?
say swing over too. All right, let's do it.
Hey, how long we been here anyways?
37 minutes.
What? 37 minutes? That's insane!
So we're back. We're here to talk all about the movies and television shows with our favorite friendly neighborhood hero, Spider-Man. What do you guys think? In my opinion, Spider-Man has some of the best movies for superheroes and some of the most iconic TV shows as well. What's your history here? What ones have you guys seen?
Well, he also has some of the worst movies.
True.
So
Yeah, unfortunately.
there's a balance there.
Yeah.
People hold him up there, though. You got to give him that.
Yeah. I mean, this is a good opportunity to do tops and bottoms, too. I mean, I've seen all the Spider-Man movies. I've seen the 90s animated cartoon, the 2099 cartoon. I saw the terrible MTV CG one.
The one season.
Oh, man. So I've seen a lot of this stuff. But my favorite, I guess I'm going to say iteration of this, it's Tom Holland in the new MCU. It's my favorite on-screen Spider-Man, period.
He's the most like Peter Parker. I mean, he's the first one that to me is like convincingly a kid.
Well, hold on.
Okay, yeah.
Getting ahead of it.
When Andrew Garfield isn't even the kid getting bullied as his Peter Parker,
Right.
you don't think that's the most Peter Parker?
He's okay. So Tobey Maguire's a grown ass man.
Yes.
Who does a really good job of being nerdy, but he's like a grown ass man.
But also should be
Yeah.
like talking to you about insurance.
yeah, like he should be trying to sell you like health insurance and not on a field trip with his buddies. But at least he's a nerd. Andrew Garfield in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I'll never forget this because I think it is like the biggest slap in the face to Spider-Man. He shows up late to graduation, walks on stage, dips his girlfriend, and gives her a big kiss.
Hell yeah.
That is so
Not Peter Parker.
like
Hell
Peter Parker.
yeah, it
It's
is,
like
dude.
he skateboards, he's a cool boy, and
Yep.
like he's so emotional. It's like
People have a lot of problems with that. Peter could skateboard in my mind.
Sure.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
I understand it's how it was portrayed, and I
Yeah.
agree. It looked very ridiculous.
So here's where I kind of draw these lines here. Tobey Maguire, even though he's a grown-ass man, was a pretty decent Peter Parker nerd. Andrew Garfield was a good, in my opinion, snarky jokester Spider-Man, but his
Yes.
Peter Parker was trash.
I agree with that.
And then we have Tom Holland, who's the
perfect
mix.
mix.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm young. I'm in high school.
Too hot, too
I'm
cold.
Snarky.
Just right.
baby. I love that, Mike. You're absolutely right. I mean, there's moments throughout Yeah, and we'll do a general tops or bottoms, but let's just keep freeforming through
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
If you guys remember in Spider-Man 2, there's the moment where Mean Harry, after he remembers past the amnesia stuff.
That's Spider-Man 3.
Oh, I do apologize.
Do not get
I'm
those
about
ones
to give a
confused.
Spider-Man 3 speech. You're right. Oh boy, that movie
So good.
Where he blackmails Mary Jane, Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane, into breaking up with Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire was about to propose, like that was their
Right.
entire thing. They're standing at the grave of Uncle Ben, and he says, "But you can't break up with me.
But
I
I
love
love
you."
you.
And he starts
Yeah.
to say a poem where he's like, "Love is like this. Love is like
No,
that."
see, that's the second one. You're getting confused.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He says, I love that line too because it's so Peter Parker to me. Where it's in the second one, and like she just can't. She wanted to be with him, and he's
Yes.
like, I can't. I'm Spider-Man. I can't tell you I'm Spider-Man.
And that's when he
We're
walks
never gonna
away.
Be together.
Yes.
Yeah. And she's and he goes, I've been reading a lot of poetry, and she goes, whatever that means.
Yes, whatever
It's just
that
like,
means. Which is great.
He's trying to be sweet.
So the scene in 3 that I'm talking about instead is where he tries to propose and she says, Jesus Christ, like, no, and like walks away. And he's just so sad. I think that's probably, for some reason, like the best Peter Parker moment to me still, because it's so sad and desperate.
And he says, we love each other. We have problems.
Yeah.
When people have problems,
Yeah.
they talk it out. And she just goes, there's someone else.
Yeah, there's
and walks
someone
away.
else.
And his, like,
Yeah.
the death in his eyes
Exactly.
is
It's just,
so
there's very
sad.
adult things happening in these films.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll defend Spider-Man 3. People say it's terrible. It's only terrible in the last, like, 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's only terrible because, again, it's so overstuffed.
Which was Sony's fault.
Yeah.
Sony insisted that they put Venom in the movie.
And they already killed Venom once for me, and they're about to do it again.
Yeah, like Sam Raimi had no interest in putting Venom in that movie. He just wanted to introduce the symbiote suit and then like kind of put that on the burner for other stuff moving forward. But no, they were like shoehorning in big third act, fucking stuff the villains in there. And like if there's any hero that I think could have an overstuffed villain palette in a movie and do it well, it's Spider-Man. I mean, like I want a fucking Sinister Six movie.
Yeah.
Not a movie about the Sinister Six, Sony, you crazy
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But a movie where Spider-Man fights the Sinister Six.
No, Homecoming did it very well, having the Shocker downgraded more to supporting villain.
Shocker, Tinkerer, and
Vulture.
all
That's
appear in
3
that film.
villains.
And that's my favorite
yeah.
Marvel villain portrayal ever is the Vulture.
Is the Vulture?
It's my number
really
one.
good
Truly,
take
Mike.
on the
Wow.
character.
Yeah, it's
I
so
mean,
good.
Michael Keaton, you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, he
the
crushed
true
it.
Birdman.
The Birdman becomes the Vulture. Wow, that's great.
From Batman to Birdman to the Vulture.
Wow, BBV. Another thing about the Spider-Man movies, 2001, right? We get the first one. This is like setting up, along with X-Men, like this world of summer blockbusters and like the superhero craze, right?
I mean, we talked about it in the Comic-Con episode.
Yeah.
Like that summer, it jumped in attendance by like 50%. I mean, that was when, superhero movies are here and they're here to stay.
That's right. And if I can just want to say my favorite of those is number 2, Dr. Octopus.
It's the best Spider-Man movie.
Alfred Molina does a great
say
job.
the best comic book movie, maybe.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I would definitely agree with that. Like, it just hits the core of the character so well. And, like, it has so many great Peter Parker moments. Again, like I love the fact that he's at a party, right? And he's shooting pictures for the Bugle. And in the course of, like, 5 minutes, everything I'm about to say happens to him. And it's so Peter Parker. He tries to get a drink. They can't get a drink. His best friend walks up to him, slaps him in the face, humiliates him at a party. And like because he let his dad die or whatever, he blames Peter for Spider-Man killing his dad, all of that.
Yep.
So he gets slapped in the face by his best friend. An announcement comes on to be like, "Oh, Peter, Mary Jane just agreed to marry someone else." She
Oh,
comes
yeah.
walking down the
he's
stairs.
like, okay.
His boss is like, "Take pictures of it. Take pictures of the
Parker,
girl of your
Parker."
dreams
Yeah.
getting married." So he takes the pictures, super upset, walks up to get an hors d'oeuvre because he can't afford dinner. goes to grab an hors d'oeuvre, and someone takes the last one right off the plate in front of him.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it is like in the course of like 2.5 minutes, like everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
And like to me, that's Spider-Man, man. Like,
And-
everything always goes wrong.
Yeah, and the guy behind making all that work is Sam Raimi. I
Yeah.
mean, Sam Raimi was a weirdo, skinny, white goofball from the Midwest who went to the big city and had that, oh gosh, kind of, attitude for the rest of his life.
And one of my favorite filmmakers.
Yeah,
of all time.
absolutely.
I
And we
mean,
should
the
say-
Evil Dead trilogy.
Yeah, we're going to
has-
talk about that in next week's episode a
Oh,
little bit.
absolutely,
Yep.
baby. And we should say has the best cameo actor of all time, Bruce Campbell,
Campbell.
throughout his entire trilogy.
Groovy.
Another
he's
great
in all of them.
Peter Parker moments, denying him access to the theater.
Ticket?
Shoes untied.
Yeah.
You might want to. Like everything about it. Well, and in
The snooty
Spider-Man 1, he
French
gives him his
waiter.
name.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
right.
he's like,
He's the
who
ring
are
announcer.
you? The human spider. The human spider. That's trash.
Yeah.
the
Spider-Man.
amazing Spider-Man.
During the
That's how to
bone
sell it.
saw, yeah.
Bonesaw is ready.
Rest
in peace, Macho Man.
I love
There's
it.
a fun fact about that Macho Man scene. He came out with like a rap album, The Macho Man. I don't know if you guys know this.
What?
And at that time, he was beefing with Hulk Hogan in real life. And he has a line where he's like, oh, you have like one-offs on TV, but I had a featured role in Spider-Man.
Oh
like he
my
references that he
God.
was in Spider-Man and therefore a bigger star than Hulk Hogan.
Oh, I believe
in
it.
his diss track.
If you're in
So,
Spider-Man.
yeah.
And like the way they handle the burglar in the movies with Raimi was so good too.
Oh,
Leaps and
yeah.
bounds, in my opinion, better than the Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, we never needed to do it again after that.
Yeah,
Basically.
I mean we did with with
Unfortunately.
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, but we didn't need to.
We did not need to.
Right.
And like I think one of the biggest tragedies of Sam Raimi's trilogy is that we never got his version of the Lizard, because his version of the Lizard would have been
talk about a slow
so
burn.
good.
That actor
man.
portrays Connors from the first film to the third.
Yeah, without an arm too. I mean, it's like it's all there. It's chilling in the
The
background.
mentor, Jekyll and Hyde thing, you know he's doing his research. When we were talking about our favorite villains, the Lizard is like my 1B.
Yeah,
he's
right?
so close. And like, I was really disappointed with the way Amazing Spider-Man had the Lizard. It was like,
I hate the way they do it.
Scarecrow, let me just release a gas on the city.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be a lizard now. What the fuck are you doing?
Here's, I guess, a hot
Yeah.
take. I like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 more than I like The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
Because they're both bad movies, and at least in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the web swinging is top-notch. And you don't have to sit through the origin story again.
Right.
I just watched one of those, not even just like Cinema Sins, because I guess that's just an actual one, but the genre of that, those breakdown videos, what's wrong with
Here's
them.
why it's awful.
And I don't know what you guys feel about those. Personally, I just don't like people thinking the same things about movies, so when it's pointed out in mass scale like that,
Yeah.
who cares? But I watched one of those on each of the Amazing Spider films, and it broke it down in a way and contextualized it again and just pointed out things that I truly just had never thought about, because who's putting that much attention into these films?
Right.
That truly it's the editing that is the problem for both of them. The pacing issues throughout. It's just a mess of let's cut until we get to the real life couple scenes, because of Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's relationship at the
chemistry
time.
was so good.
And
Yeah.
because of their idiotic chemistry, the scenes play out, whether it's through improv or whatever, 5 times longer than any other cut or any other shot in the movies.
Really?
So the pacing is all over the place, and it just smacks you in the face the entire time.
Yeah. How about that Rhino, though?
Yeah, how about that?
Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, I don't know.
I always felt like Rhino would have to be in a robot suit because the cartoon one is so goofy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, that's kind of every version of him now is,
Yeah.
he's stuck in the suit. Is
Right.
basically what it
Yeah,
boils
and I've
down
said
to.
it before. I have a thin line with Spider-Man villains when it comes to hybrid animals / mech suits. It seems to kind of lean
One or the
either
other.
way.
See, I would take a mech suit over a hybrid animal
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
Except, I don't know, the Green Goblin is kind of...
I want that ultimate.
I kinda want
hope
that
the
ultimate
next
now.
one is an ultimate.
Yeah.
Give me Bryan Cranston
Do you
in
know
the
what
role.
this is?
No.
He turns into an actual goblin, Mike.
Yeah.
like I don't know how to portray
as
it other
opposed
than
to
that.
the glider, the
Rubber
pumpkin
suit.
bombs,
Yeah.
the rubber suit, all of that. He literally, tries to recreate what happened to Spider-Man.
Becomes-
And the powers he gets are basically just he morphs into a Hulk.
Oh, okay. But does he fly
But he's
around?
still smart. He still knows everything.
no, it
In
kinda just
some
leaps.
versions,
Yeah.
he has a
Okay.
glider. I don't
Sometimes he
like
has a
those
wings,
as much.
which is
He grows
even
wings.
worse,
The Into the Spider-Verse trailer has
him with wings.
hinted,
I've seen that
slash
version,
shown that he
okay.
has wings.
Yeah, the goblins are, I don't like the costume from the Sam Raimi ones, honestly.
Oh,
the
really?
Power Ranger suit
Have
for the
you
Green
ever
Goblin?
seen
The costume test.
the test one that they almost did?
Yeah, the prototype one, right?
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
The,
that was
the
awesome.
goblin mask.
When Joe, you're saying you're such a big fan of the character, the Green Goblin. Obviously, you like the Gary Cooper version, not the Chris Cooper version. I'm sorry,
So
animated
fucking
Spider-Man
terrible.
who gets sick. I have goblin disease.
Yeah,
And
which
it's
is
just
like, oh,
he has
okay.
weird extended ears and like green eyes.
That's
What is
right.
that? He has like, what is that? MS?
It's
What
a
is going on?
neurodegenerative disease,
It
which is a
turns
part
you
of the
into a
mythos.
goblin?
It breaks down your body. I mean, it's not real, but
Right.
it's genetic. That's what killed Harry's mom. Harry has it. Like this is all kind of stuff I'll bring up too when we
Insane.
get to the video games. They explore that a little bit in the PS4 game.
Are you satisfied with how the Goblin has been portrayed in the film so far? Then,
Willem
as your
Dafoe,
favorite,
the
Willem
best.
Dafoe is great.
Yeah,
So
William
good.
Dafoe is great. I
But
mean, I
not
would
a great
say-
look. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Mike.
not a good
What do you
look.
think, Joe?
Not a great look, but William Dafoe's take on it was great. You just said Bryan Cranston for the MCU version. I would fucking love that. I really want a menacing, long-lasting Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Norman Osborn, and now that he can be in the MCU, is he is, imagine Tony Stark but evil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
You know what I mean? Like he uses his power, like the Iron Patriot, which is featured in
Man 3.
Iron Man 2, or is that
Man
Iron
3?
Man 3?
Yeah.
In the comic books, that's Norman Osborn.
Really?
Who sees the Avengers falling apart and says, you know what? I'm going to take a bunch of villains. I'm going to pretend we're heroes. And we're going to
Dark Reign.
Yeah, we're going to become the new Avengers and wreck the reputations of the original Avengers.
Whoa.
By kind of like Trojan horsing villains as heroes. And he becomes Iron Patriot, which is, a Tony Stark suit with Norman Osborn inside.
I think you just uncovered the next phase of Marvel's plan.
I would really
love
like
that.
to see Norman Osborn step up to the plate
lot of
as a villain for sure, Spider-Man, but also everything.
yeah, but for everybody. A lot of people throw out Matthew McConaughey. I would like that.
That's fine. I want someone a little older though, because
think
that's
that's-
another. To me, it's generational, man. Like something about Spider-Man's villains all being old men who want to
Yeah.
keep a young man down. Like that means something to me.
McConaughey maybe for Harry.
Well, no, because
that
Harry
would
would
blow
have
my
to be.
mind.
He's got to
super
be a
young.
peer. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got
That
to
would blow
be.
my
Anyway.
I mean, if we even do that, like the MCU version has really taken a lot from Miles as well. Like Ned.
Yeah, that's true.
Not Ned. He's Gank. He's Miles Morales' best friend. So much so that they did a storyline in the comic books where he meets a girl who he like kind of falls in love with, and she's like all about Spider-Man, and he's like, well, I know Spider-Man.
Right.
I can't tell you my real name, so I'll tell you my name is Ned. And it's like,
Wow.
that's a funny little jab at the movies.
They use that pseudonym.
How do you feel about the future of the movies, though? Are you hopeful for Spider-Man moving forward? Because I tell you, I got some reservations. I'm a little
hopeful.
concerned.
I'm very confused by the Sony situation. The Venom stuff. We'll do a hit or shit to wrap up this segment of the movies and
Yeah.
just kind of get everybody's feelings on Venom. But beyond that, you guys have to understand that they're still moving forward with Morbius. Jared Leto's cast.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
supposedly setting up a
Black
shoot
Cat.
date. Black Cat Silver Sable has been put on hold, but again, it has a director. Supposedly that could shoot as well.
It's split into 2 movies now, is what I heard.
Who knows? These are all characters that they are withholding. That is a great fear of mine. There's also talk of like, well, you know what they should do? They should do an Old Man Logan version, bring Tobey Maguire back, have him like finish up his stuff. And it's just like, I'm not into the past anymore. I don't need any of that. I need all of the Spider-Man universe together to allow his films to be great. There's these rumors in the new film that they're digging out villains like Molten Man, who's just a very general Marvel villain, probably an Iron Man villain who just sucks, that they might
Fantastic
use
Four first
him.
appearance.
Oh, really? That they might use him in the next film for Spider-Man. That
No.
has me fucking worried.
Yeah.
That Kevin
Yeah,
Feige's
see, this
deal
is the
was
kind
like,
of stuff that makes
we'll
me
give
nervous,
you,
too.
we'll give you this character, but you can't have Kraven, you can't have the Lizard, you can't have Doc Ock. It's like, God, if that's where we're at, I'm fucking shaking in my boots over
Yeah,
here,
because
guys.
that's, I mean, you're robbing me of everything I want.
Yeah.
You know, you're really neutering the universe by just keeping.
But that's
so
so
you can make
two-handed
dumb
because
bullshit.
look, guys, we have Tom Holland in a Steve Ditko accurate suit with web wings. You know, I mean, it's
But-
like, God damn.
We're missing the Rogues Gallery.
But we're missing the Rogues Gallery.
Which to
we're
me,
missing
I mean,
his universe.
it's like that's what matters. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see. We need to see how we do J. Jonah Jameson.
Is there a reason that they haven't brought up the Daily Bugle? Is Eddie Brock and his Venom universe going to get to start working for them and Tom Holland won't? I'm fucking fearful of that.
Yeah, see, there's a lot that
Yeah.
I'm nervous of because, you know, with Far From Home, we know the rumored villains of Mysterio,
Hydro Man,
Molten Man, and
man.
Chameleon are the
Yeah, it's
rumors,
like,
and I don't really care for. I mean, I'll take Mysterio. I think Mysterio makes sense for a movie,
He gets top billing, yeah.
but I don't know, man. I just really want like a Craven movie, and you know, if they're trying to make a Craven standalone, see, Sony's got this dumb idea, and they've had it forever. Like during the Amazing Spider-Man times, where they were like, "We're gonna do a Sinister Six movie about the Sinister Six." It's like, why? Who the fuck is asking for that?
Yeah.
I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I have no interest in watching a movie about his villains that don't feature him.
Yeah, at all. It's a balance. Like if I had the Batman films with nothing but C-listers and no Joker.
can you imagine?
And Joker got a spin-off with another studio. It's like, what the hell is this?
I mean, that's kind of what we're getting.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mike, you're kind of painting a
Well,
realistic
now we
scenario
are.
for
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
idiots,
Yeah, we
too.
got 2 Joker movies in the pipeline,
Yeah.
and
But we have
no
the Dark
Batman
Knight.
movie.
But yeah, no more Batman, right? So
Yeah,
it's very weird.
technically, maybe not even an actor for that guy at the moment. So who
Oh,
knows?
man.
Yeah, I mean, it's really disheartening, and it makes me nervous. You know, I'll be honest, it really does make me nervous about, like, if I can't have any of the main Sinister Six, the original Sinister Six, then like I don't know who I want. You know,
Or even
like,
comments.
can we get Norman Osborn? Or is that going to
don't know.
happen?
Is that off the table,
I
right?
don't know. But even comments from Kevin Feige, who, again, I'm putting so much trust in just because, again, I think he's earned it, saying comments like, we're not going to dig into the past either. We're not interested in portraying villains that have been portrayed on screen before. Look, Doc Ock is just such a large part of who Peter Parker is. He was his teacher. He betrays him. That means the world to him. Yeah, to just flat out say we're not going to even do that. He's the guy who created the Sinister Six. If you're trying to cash in on this idea of a team teaming up against him, you need that element.
Yeah.
You cannot withhold that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that it's like, you know, I know they just did the Lizard, but like they didn't do him right.
Yeah,
I would
just
like to
so
see him
on.
do it right.
Even Alfred Molina knocked it out as Otto Octavius. Fantastic. Guess what? Somebody's going to do a great job too.
Patton
It's
Oswalt.
just respecting the. Oh, that please. That would be awesome.
That's what I want.
It's
Patton
just
Oswalt.
respecting the source material.
Well, we know that there was that tease for Scorpion.
Yep, Matt Gargan.
So at
is
least
in
that's like he's a billable
Hell yeah.
villain,
which
you
is
know?
it's a cool take on the character too, and I guess this is a little niche I can talk about. He's named Matt Gargan, but he's also very obviously based on another version of the Scorpion who is not named Matt Gargan, but is kind of like a Mexican gangster who uses a metal chain with a hook on the end, and he's a Miles villain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's got a big tattoo that says Scorpion on him.
This
and
guy
he's-
had it on his neck. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's.
Oh yeah,
it's
we love the
taking
actor Michael
elements from
Mando
it.
from Breaking Bad. Is
Breaking Bad
fantastic.
and
Yeah.
Better Call Saul. He's really had like a glow up.
Oh,
there.
and did you ever play that Far Cry game, Mike, where he's the lead character with the mohawk?
Yeah, that's right.
Where
Okay,
he
yeah.
portrayed that guy as well. I mean, he's such a great psychopath.
Yeah, so at least there's that. But yeah, you really
See
want to
him
get
bash his brains in? Yeah, he's great.
you want Octavius though. You want
And
the Green Goblin.
Yeah, but Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
He was going to be one of the Spider-Man, and
He was going to be Tobey Maguire. Yeah.
Guys, beyond that, he did stunt work for Spider-Man 2. He did body double
And
shots.
now he's
I mean, he wasn't that big of an
stuntman
actor
gone
back then.
bad for a franchise that he didn't get to star in. I think that's really fucking cool.
Wow.
I think there's a lot of like cool.
he
That
is.
is really
there.
cool,
Like,
Joe.
look, it's a Spider-Man movie. It comes out almost on my 30th birthday.
But it takes place in Venice, the Czech Republic,
Yeah,
abroad.
see, and
Again,
that's
Spider-Man to you?
No,
It's international.
and that's also
Yeah.
kind of what bothers me is I want The Infinity War suit is fine. The Iron Spider movie suit is fine.
Right.
I don't want it anymore.
No.
I want him back in the red and blue. I want him taking care of New York, man. Somebody's got to take care of New York.
Even in Homecoming, you have a different look. They said, we don't want him swinging through cities. It's been done before. Let's get him in the suburbs amongst the trees. Okay, again, all that stuff's very cool. I want to see your take. Do your take where you are doing all the things that you say are.
Yep.
We've seen it before. Okay. Show me it again, but show me it yours. Show me the pristine, perfect copy of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to make the character the way he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like saying, like, well, we don't want to use a bat symbol.
Yeah.
Everyone's used the bat signal before, so we're just not going to do it. And it's like, okay, but, like, that's a part of the character, man.
In my mind, I
Yeah.
almost made the joke, well, no Batcave. We don't want to do that. In the Batman vs. Superman, it was burnt to the ground. He didn't even have the Batcave. People, executives still are making these decisions of, like, well, come on, they don't really want to see that. But it's like,
they
we
can't
do.
just give you what you want.
They sort of do, yeah.
Yeah.
But outside of that, Spider-Verse is coming soon. That looks like we
Oh,
are getting
man.
everything we want, right?
Yes.
I can't wait. All right, so just a little bit about that, guys.
Yeah.
John Mulaney as Spider-Ham, Nick Cage as Spider-Man Noir.
Great.
You've got Spider-Gwen, Peter Parker, Miles Morales, the Prowler is confirmed to be in it as well. Green Goblin's confirmed to be in it. I mean, I think this
Liev
is
Schreiber.
going to be. Yeah, I think this is going to be in the best Spider-Man movie. I mean, it's
Wow.
just like web swinging is one of the most cinematic things in all of comic book movies to me. Like, it doesn't get any better than web swinging through a city. What you can do with that animated is I'm so excited to see.
Sure, and what looks
they
like a
pull
very
off.
unique animation style. as
Oh
well.
yeah, and like the comic book sound effects and stuff coming up on the screen, the writing, like
Spider
everything
sense.
seems so cool.
Yeah.
I love the spider sense.
And what's the release date for that? The
Right before Christmas this year.
awesome, yeah.
So it's gonna be a great palate cleanser to Venom.
Before that,
Venom.
in October, like a turd in the wind, we have Venom. So let's hit or shit it, guys.
Oh man.
First, just a couple bare elements about it. Tom Hardy, he's doing another goofy voice.
Yep.
Sounds like an idiot. Do you guys agree?
I agree.
Okay.
Why you
doing
do
his-
that?
Why you do that?
Everybody's got
Some
problems.
do that.
I found out something wee bad.
Really bad.
What? Sounds like a little boy. So he's doing a New Yorker accent.
But he lives in San Francisco, so
Very goofy. Riz Ahmed is playing the bad guy, a scientist. It's another one of these stories that we've seen before. Scientist bites off more than he can chew with dangerous technology that he wants to bring to the world to save it, but it takes a reluctant hero to step up and actually show him that he's wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, guys, right? It's Chronicle. It's, it's every fucking bad pitch black movie. You've got two symbiotes wrestling against each other in the trailers.
And
And
the
it's
two
like the final
symbiotes that look
conflict.
exactly the same. I mean,
literally
they're-
black oil on top of each other.
Yeah,
which
Yeah.
So it's Venom versus Riot, and Riot is Venom without the Venom signal, but also Venom doesn't have the Venom signal either because
Yeah.
Spider-Man doesn't exist
Yeah,
in this universe.
right.
So they look exactly the fucking same.
That's not
yeah.
I mean, it's for teenage edgelords. Like Eminem did the theme song.
that's pretty much
good.
it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so all stacked against it.
I'm
Let's
stacking
say
shit, yeah.
hit or shit. I'm going to say shit.
I'm gonna say box office shit and critically shit.
You
I
think
think
it's-
it's going to be terrible, and I don't think it's going
You
to
don't
be
think
money.
it won't do well overseas? Tom Hardy's a big name.
It might do well overseas, maybe, but like
Domestic,
that's an
it's gonna
interesting
it'll bomb
question.
domestic.
I think it'll bomb domestic.
I think it'll barely it'll make money. It's not gonna double its budget, but it's gonna make money with the overseas included. That's my guess.
Okay. How
I
about
think
Rotten
domestically
Tomato
it'll, like, totally
predictions? I would say under 30.
I would say under 50.
Wow. Okay.
Audience score because of the 15-year-olds who love it.
Yeah.
So I could say 50% sounds about right. Critics are going to put it at 25.
And like, look, I like Venom as a character. I like Tom Hardy as an actor, but Venom without Spider-Man makes no sense. It's a yin without a yang. And Tom Hardy, I think, he said he wanted to do this movie for his kid because his kid was a big
Yeah.
Venom fan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he really understands what he got into.
No.
And I think like he's playing it like as if he's doing it for his kid, where he's like, "Why we do that, little buddy? We
Why
make a
we do
Venom
that."
movie."
Then you have the director Ruben Fleischer, most known for Zombieland, but whose last hit Gangster Squad was so critically
garbage.
panned. I mean, it was
And
buried.
he didn't do Zombieland alone. So I think
No, the writers of Deadpool, of course.
yeah, which that element you know, you can tell if you've seen Deadpool and Zombieland, like those elements that make Zombieland special are definitely what comes from the stuff that makes Deadpool special. The funny writing on the screen, the exact like chirons that come up and stuff like that. You know, the twisting take on something. This just looks very straightforward.
Very dumb.
Very dumb. I mean, like, can we talk about the fact that they released the fucking trailer without any of the effects in because they were just desperate to get it out?
Yep, there was nothing, no venom.
So it just looks like he's doing it with his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate the word turd. It sounds so immature to me.
Yeah.
The movie looks so immature to me. And I'm not saying like everything needs to be gritty and serious, but it doesn't even look funny.
Yeah.
No,
it doesn't look. It looks like it's taking itself too serious.
But I like when he jumps the motorcycle and he falls off it and he grabs a motorcycle with his venom claw.
Like, why?
Dude, 90s
does
action,
Venom
baby.
do that?
Right.
Has Venom ever
I have
done
no
that?
idea. So is Eddie Brock a good character? Joe, you know, with all the antithesis stuff you've been saying, just thinking it out, you're totally right in that a lot of these villains are that to Spider-Man. You have a teen to face off against an older man in the same field as him, newspaper, but he's aggressive. You know, he doesn't have anybody in his world. Like Spider-Man has friends. Peter Parker has people in his life. Exactly.
No. Eddie Brock works out alone in a dark room.
Oh, exactly. And, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. Eddie Brock covets power. He wants what Spider-Man has. And to turn into a monster, you know, to join up, because, again, it's two minds coming together with the symbiote to feed off each other's hatred for Spider-Man. He is a good character, but why is that? I mean, what was the key factor that I mentioned in all of that with his character? Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Peter Parker.
So to take that out, it's not going to be good.
I don't understand the obsession Sony has as a studio with doing these spin-offs. Like,
cash.
But is it going to make cash? I mean, like this to me, I don't hot take. I don't think Sony will be making movies in 10 years.
They'll be making microwaves.
Yeah, they will be making video games and televisions.
Well, because the flip side,
and camera equipment.
The Spider-Man game is getting really great reviews.
It's incredible.
So Sony's doing that right, but the movie's wrong.
Insomniac Studios doing that right.
They have the rights, though. Yeah, Insomniac did it. Yeah.
And like we'll talk more about that when we get to the video game section. But I really think like Sony just has no idea what they're doing movie-wise right now. I think they're really floundering as a studio. Like, how much money did they pump into Ghostbusters?
Oh, yeah.
Only to have it completely fall apart because they couldn't rein a director in.
Emoji Movie, huge failure.
Emoji Movie, huge failure.
I think they're behind Pixels.
Huge favor. Or failure.
Yeah.
I just, you know, when you're in charge of Spider-Man, you got to do it right to me, or at least show some care. Amy Pascal, like, have you guys seen the Curb Your Enthusiasm meme of her and Kevin Feige sitting down and she's like, well, I do think there's potential of, you know, Tom Holland Spider-Man crossing over, and it just like zooms in on Kevin Feige. He's like,
his eyes get bigger and bigger.
Not happening.
Of course not.
I mean, I don't get it. I really don't. I don't understand why. I mean, like, even when they were trying it with BJ Novak putting together the Sinister Six as Smythe in
very strange.
The Amazing Spider-Man. None of that makes any sense.
A lot of, let me tell you, so with Venom, we're going to see a lot of changes. Everything's on hold right now. The fact that they put production on hold for Silver and Black, with Kevin Feige not answering direct questions about Tom Holland crossovers and stuff like that. The reception of Venom, it's going to answer a lot of those questions, guys.
Yeah.
That's
How do you feel? I mean, I'm glad and I'm not glad at the same time that Spider-Man's a kid in the MCU universe. Do you think Tom Holland's going to play Spider-Man for the next 10 years?
Unfortunately not. I think because of the way these contracts work, I think it's pretty spelled out his involvement with the Marvel brand specifically, and it can't be that long because of the trade-off.
Yeah, see, that makes me nervous.
Yeah,
like, a lot of the stuff that makes me nervous has nothing to do with the people who are actually making the movies or writing the movies or playing the characters.
It's the people making the money.
It's the people making the money and the corporations involved. Yeah. Which is, you know, very
Norman
Spider-Man.
That's right.
Unfortunately.
So that's the movies. Before we move on out, do you guys want to talk a little bit about some of the TV shows?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff? Just hit them a little bit.
one of the top 3 theme songs of all time. Well, actually, all of them, even the original.
I was going to say, which one are you
song,
talking? Or
the guitar one from the 90s, Radioactive Spider Blood, also the original. Like,
I love the original.
Yeah, it's so good.
Is he
Swings
strong?
away.
Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood.
Catches thieves just like flies. Look out. Right? Here comes the
Here
Spider-Man.
comes the Spider-Man.
Those great stings. Yeah.
Also, great theme song, the Spider-Man Japanese TV show.
Right.
Boom.
Yeah, the Japanese Spider-Man is crazy.
The Japanese Spider-Man has nothing to do with Spider-Man at all.
It's a giant robot series, like Power Rangers.
He's like
Leopardon.
So, yeah, Spider-Man and his superhero sidekick, the giant robot Leopardon.
Yeah.
And they fight aliens, and he gets his powers from a dying alien. And he's not a photographer. He is a motorcycle
enthusiast?
Racer. I mean, he's a professional motocross star.
Yeah.
Can you imagine watching that and then growing up and coming over here and seeing a kid reading a Spider-Man comic book and being like, I love Leopardon.
Spider-Man?
Yeah. Let me tell you all about that.
Where's his motorcycle? Where are the aliens?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. I don't know about any of that.
I don't
But
know any of that.
it did have Stan Lee's blessing. He
Yeah.
thought the special effects in particular were
Yeah.
incredible. He loved it.
Spider-Man's a perfect fit for Japan too, because it's just like Kamen Rider, those Sentai Power Ranger
Exactly.
series. He has the look that just you slot him right in, even if it's the story that doesn't feel Spider-Man to us. It's like, hey, just another guy on a motorcycle with
Just
a mask.
another guy on a motorcycle
it works.
shooting webs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the CGI MTV show that only lasted one season. Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah.
Didn't really care for that. It took some inspiration from the Ultimate Universe, their version of Electro.
Yeah, I was going to say
is
that's the first
version.
time I ever saw him all electricked it out.
Colin, we had talked about this a little bit, and neither one of us had ever gotten into it. The Spectacular Spider-Man, the cartoon.
Yeah. Highly rated, considered the pinnacle of the comic book series.
I've
and
watched
again,
it.
Reduces him down as a child, right?
Yeah. I've watched it since. I gave it another go. The animation is a real hard pill to swallow for me. I just don't really care for the look.
Yeah.
But the way they do Venom is great. It's a high school Spider-Man. I think it's like 3 or 4 seasons. It's pretty good. I would recommend it now.
Very 60s based. He faces
Yeah.
off against people like the Enforcers, which was people with like cowboy.
Fancy Dan.
Yeah, Fancy Dan.
All right.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Ox.
Where,
And those
you
are
know,
characters
just
that
back
we
the
saw
day.
in the Ultimate
Yeah.
Universe as
fun.
Kingpin's muscle.
Yeah.
With the Enforcers.
Right. Maybe Kingpin, because he is Marvel, could harry Spider-Man in the movies sometime.
Yeah, see,
love that.
if I could get Tom Holland against Vincent D'Onofrio,
Yeah.
like, I mean, they're so great at the roles.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, what I want more than anything is a 10-minute short that just has Spider-Man meeting the Defenders and being like, "Oh, what's up, Matt Murdock? You keep Hell's Kitchen safe. I'll keep Queen
you say
safe."
the Defenders, you mean Daredevil.
I really
I don't
do.
really
Yeah,
care
yeah.
if he talks to Iron Fist. That really means nothing to me.
No, but yeah, I guess I do just mean Daredevil.
Yeah.
If I could get Daredevil, the Punisher, and Spider-Man, basically just recreate that issue with the
basically.
Kingpin,
Right.
I would lose it. Just condense it to 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, that, or if you can't get good villains, use that.
Yeah, use
and
the ones you
elevate your
have.
Netflix characters. Still keep it grounded compared to like the Avengers films, and I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, like, the future I think is definitely bright, but there's a lot to be wary about. I mean, my spider senses are kind of going off about these contracts and what villains can be used. So I think
Yeah.
there's reason to be wary.
We'll have to see which way the pendulum swings. on this
Yeah,
one.
and then I'm sorry, just to continue this topic on, but yeah, Marvel just revealed with their streaming service that they're thinking about doing highlighted individual chapters for characters who haven't gotten the full effect on screen to be fleshed out in miniseries on their devices. They want to put high-end money into it too. That's something where, like, if you're a fan, if you're just daydreaming and saying, like, oh, well, what if Spider-Man could meet Daredevil and it was in one of those?
Yeah.
I think the logistics of that, I mean, that's a Netflix character moving from one streaming device to another to interact with a borrowed character
Yeah.
who Marvel doesn't even really... It's just like at
They
that
said
point,
it's going to be the most expensive series of all time, too.
I
Jesus.
believe it.
Tom
It's just
Holland
there's
or
kind of just
Tom
too
Hiddleston.
many question marks is
Yeah.
my issue. So I don't know.
I mean, I think as we
many
move
cooks.
forward with the MCU, there's going to be more and more questions because, you've been doing this for a decade. How do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it alive?
Yeah.
And if, Spider-Man's going to be, they've already announced that Spider-Man Far From Home is the beginning of the next phase. But if Spider-Man's, choice of characters is as neutered as it seems to be, that makes me nervous.
Yeah, very much so.
All right, well, my senses are tinkling, guys. Should we talk video games?
I think we should.
Let's web swing on out of here. So we've talked about reading Spider-Man, watching Spider-Man, but what about being Spider-Man? The video games of Spider-Man, in my opinion, have been some of the best superhero games of all time. There's a long history, lots of them. What have you guys played? What are some of your favorites of these?
Well, you say being. I mean, this is the one that I want to be. These are the games that I picked up. And when I had the Super Nintendo growing up, if it had Spider-Man on it, my parents would go ahead and get it for me. So the first game that I ever had was Spider-Man and the X-Men in Arcade's Revenge. Do you guys remember this game at all?
No.
Yes, but only through Pies. That was one later. I did not have that one as a kid. The mechanics are a little wonky.
It's impossible. So let me tell you, this is one that did also not survive my childhood because I probably picked it up and threw it a bunch. It's a game I never beat, like most Super Nintendo games, or got past maybe even the first levels. It was just Spider-Man teaming up with the villain Arcade. Are you familiar with him, Mike? He's an X-Men villain.
I've heard of Arcade, but I don't remember what he does.
Arcade's murderous carnivals of tricks. He just always constantly takes over the danger room and puts the X-Men to their limits, tests them to try to kill them.
So he's like Mysterio.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Another one of these tech-based, doesn't really do anything.
But he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. And, he had a great run recently, actually, in the X-Men comic books where it became a Hunger Games parody, where he became a godlike villain who took over an island, put them in a simulation, and truly made them fight to the death very coolly. And this was a terrible game. I mean, it was just individually you would pick who you would be. Wolverine, Storm, Spider-Man, Cyclops.
Yeah.
You'd go through, you would shoot the little dumb web things, impossible graphics. Beyond that, I mean, I would go to the arcade. I would try and find Spider-Man arcade games where you would team up with Black Cat. I would race home to rent the red cartridge from Blockbuster of Maximum Carnage.
Yep.
I mean, is there any cooler video game on the planet?
That was the one for me. Also, put itself aside right away, a red cartridge for the Super Nintendo.
Doom had a red cartridge for the Super Nintendo as well.
Oh, it did? Okay.
So
See, I never played
Limited
that.
run.
But the Maximum Carnage, that cover with him over top of the city. Oh,
Yeah.
Was there anything better?
That was my, Spider-Man game of my youth, Sega Genesis version. But yeah, you could have two players,
Badass.
Spider-Man, you could be Venom, and, just side-scrolling beat 'em up, nothing crazy. But you could web swing, do the kick,
But again, didn't you find it incredibly complicated? Did you know the combos to web swing as a kid?
No, that's later your older cousin figures it out.
Shows it to you,
Yeah.
writes it down, puts that slip of paper in the little box, and maybe you pull that out when you're playing it again.
I was not even that in those days. The instruction manual had a notes section. They're
where you
expecting
could
you to
actually
write
that
stuff
down.
down.
Yeah. Very true.
I wasn't even looking up on GameFAQs at that point.
That
But
game has some of the coolest fucking ties to the universe too, Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah,
Are in there.
show
right
up
away.
halfway
Yep.
through it. So how about something like the movie games? I mean, those, again, are universally considered some of the best games ever made. Spider-Man 2, the video game, narrated by Bruce Campbell, I remember that fact about it, was probably the #1 blockbuster rental I ever had. I would probably go there every week just to recheck it out.
Spider-Man 1 was a rental. And that was not open world. It was very just straightforward.
By Spider-Man 2, you said, "Mom, let me save you some money. Get me this game."
Yeah, Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is, we'll talk about Spider-Man PS4 in a little bit. We'll cover some of these ones first. But it was open world, swing around New York City, fight crimes when they appear, and then,
What do you think came out first, Grand Theft Auto 3 or this? What do you think you guys got your hands on first?
Grand Theft Auto.
it's
Really?
probably Grand Theft Auto by a year.
I remember Spider-Man really blowing my mind that you could go anywhere. So maybe it was
No,
Spider-Man
it was
for me.
definitely Grand Theft Auto because after Spider-Man, I remember Vice City.
Ooh, very cool.
Right.
So Grand Theft Auto 3 had already happened.
I really liked the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man game.
The animated one?
It was like 3D. It was the PlayStation 1, and like it would just go through the story. There's like QTEs and stuff, like certain story moments, like running towards camera.
And that was like like Doc Ock with Carnage, or Doc Ock gets like the symbiote on him at the end.
I remember when Venom
and you can like
Electro was in it too. That was a dope game.
Yeah, they had a really good and you could make like the web fist, the combo system. It was kind of like a prototype for what Spider-Man 2 the game was.
Yes, absolutely.
When it's one of those things where it's like, again, I mean, just like web swinging is the most cinematic, it just makes the most sense for video
in a
games.
game swinging
it's
webs.
So satisfying.
That's true.
Yeah, when a game like Infamous comes out for the PlayStation, where they want to put you in an open city as a superhero, they're envious. Like, he's got electrical powers as he's getting around town. I'm sure they're just saying, God, couldn't we just make this web swinging?
Can't we just have Spider-Man, please?
Yeah, please.
Even Batman's got his grappling hook in Arkham.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of comparisons to Arkham and Spider-Man games, but like those combo systems and like the spider sense to like dodge if there's an attack coming, that was in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
So
all of that was in the
Arkham
Spider-Man 2
borrowed
game.
off that. It's not the other way around.
It built it all up for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we're kind of dancing around Spider-Man PS4. We'll talk more about it, but the comparison to the Arkham games, I think, is very valid. I have played Spider-Man PS4. I got my first ever platinum PlayStation trophy.
Oh, congratulations.
I 100%ed the game. Every unlockable, every suit, every side mission, main story, done it all.
Oh, my God.
And it's incredible. I get the comparisons to Arkham, especially like in the combat and stuff, but I would say in Arkham, it's a lot of button mashing and just timing the dodge, right? I mean, like that's the core of the Arkham games. In the Spider-Man PS4 game, it really feels like you're growing as you play it. Like the way you use the gadgets is so much more satisfying than just tapping R2 to throw a batarang. Because like you can trip mine two characters or two villains together and then they web to each other, or you can throw a web bomb where everyone gets covered in web and you can stick them to walls. Then
Very cool tech.
Yeah, and like it feels more than button mashing, like you're growing with the combat. Because like when I first started playing it, it did, I was kind of just doing the same thing, and then I realized like, like if I can get them over to the wall, I can jump off the wall and then back onto them, and then I can swing back and hit this guy with the trip mine. All of that stuff, it feels like you're growing with the character.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of big environment play too. I like that.
Yo, it's so cool, dude. The environment play, like, because, I mean, it's Spider-Man. You can web anything, right? So,
climb
like,
on anything, yeah.
Like, if you're, if you see a fucking trash can and you got a 300-pound guy running to you, just web that trash can, hit him in the head, jump over, web his face.
Dope.
Like, you can do it all.
That's pretty... And I see you, like, slide under their legs and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
You can pull them up in the air. You can web throw them down. Like, and for certain guys, like, Spider-Man's a little dude. Like, he's strong, but he's little.
Yeah.
For the big dudes, like, you can't pop them up in the air. You have to like use the environment around you. You have to use the gadgets. And like with Batman, like you could really just button mash your way through the combat.
Right.
And I love the Arkham games. Don't get me wrong. But Spider-Man, I feel like the combat is a lot more satisfying.
It's cool to hear like that they have like larger enemies that you can't do your air combos with. So like at least they're using the gameplay mechanics and the enemy design to teach you different styles of play.
Absolutely.
Right?
And like they get jetpacks at some point. The enemies, like for certain factions, have jetpacks, and it's like, okay, well, what do you do when like they're already in the air, so you can't necessarily pop them up? Like you have to crawl up the wall and then web kick them in the face. Like that kind of stuff. It's way cooler.
Part of enjoyable combat in games is not just the moves that you have, but the encounter design. So it's cool to hear that they were thoughtful about like how they're designing like the different types of enemies you run into and the groupings and stuff like that.
I hate when there's no versatility.
Or if it's just like
got to be about changing
mash.
stuff up.
Yeah,
you're gonna get fatigued that way.
Exactly.
And Spider-Man should never feel boring.
No, and I'll tell you,
Yeah,
it
really.
doesn't. Can I gush about this game? Or
Please,
do you guys want to talk about it?
Go right in.
Yeah.
Spider-Man PS4 is just as good of a Peter Parker game as it is a Spider-Man game.
Wow. Okay.
Which is
That's very high praise.
like so satisfying. Like you in the story play as Peter Parker. You're not just Spider-Man. Like you are web swinging through the city and you get a call from Dr. Otto Octavius who's like, "Hey man, you're late for work. Are you going to come in today?" So you got to web to work. You got to do some puzzles that are like science, because I mean,
Take
how do you
some
do
pictures?
science?
Yeah.
Well, you're not working for the Bugle.
Oh, interesting.
And there's so much great history in this game. You're not working for the Bugle, and the reason you find out is because you basically just got sick and tired of taking pictures that made you look like the bad guy. So you quit, and you started working with Dr. Otto Octavius, who's trying to change the world. Obviously, Doc Ock is a villain, so like, as you're being friends with him, it's crazy to see that relationship of like father, son, mentor, only to have it twisted on you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, you'll be web swinging, beating up bad guys, and you'll get a call from Aunt May that's like, hey, can you come down to the homeless shelter I volunteer at? I could use a hand. And it's like, it just feels so much like you are Spider-Man. You're Peter Parker. This is your life.
Well, it
These
feels big,
responsibilities,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, just from the landmarks, right? I mean, you're seeing Avengers Tower. You're seeing the Sanctum Sanctorum.
And that was some of the most satisfying stuff. It's like to be. I remember the first night I got the game. I didn't play any missions. I just kind of web swing around. And the tutorial, like the walkthrough, the first thing you do is take out the Kingpin. So like the first villain you fight is Kingpin, and you send him away. Fisk Tower looks just like Trump Tower, which is super cool. And so, I beat Fisk. Just started web swinging around, was running up a building, and I was like, oh man, this is a really tall building. Got to the top of it. It was fucking Avengers Tower.
Oh, wow.
It's like, just like the idea of like, oh my God, here we are. And you can like backflip off of it. Like Colin said, you see the Sanctum, which is Doctor Strange's hangout. The Wakandan embassy is in there.
Oh, really?
If you're a fan of the Netflix shows, Josie's, the dive bar that they go to, and Daredevil is in there.
Right.
There are tons of Easter eggs for Marvel fans. It's really unreal.
What I saw was there's 28 different costumes, 28 different spider outfits, right?
Mm-hmm. And every single one of them is unlockable without paying for them.
Nice.
They're not hidden behind a paywall. They're not pre-order bonuses. While I did pre-order the game and I got the Spider-Punk, Infinity War, and Velocity suits unlocked right away, you could still get those unlocked through gameplay.
Just by playing.
Yeah. And like every suit has its own abilities, which is cool. And you can change the ability to whatever suit you like. So like, there are certain suits that I like a lot, but I don't like their ability. You can just put on another ability from a different suit.
Okay.
So like you could be the Amazing Fantasy costume, but you can have the Iron Spider legs.
Right.
See a lot of complaints in games like God of War that came out for the same system of people messing around with equipment, but the charms and boosts are not removable. So, you cannot aesthetically play the character that you want to play, and a lot of frustration there. That's very cool that Spider-Man gives you that sort of hands-off.
And this is Insomniac Games, the people who created Spyro the Dragon and Ratchet and Clank. Like, they have a long history of really beloved Sony
Sly
properties.
Cooper.
Yeah.
Sly Cooper, yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of like Spider-Man. He climbs around on stuff.
Yeah. And, I don't want to spoil too much of the story, but
it's Sinister Six, right?
it becomes Sinister Six, which is really cool because...
They alluded to that in the trailer. That shouldn't be a spoiler.
Yeah, they did.
But they withhold who's putting it together.
We don't know the
withhold
mastermind, right?
But, if you're a Spider-Man fan, you see it coming a mile away. And that's not saying it's unsatisfying, because it's very satisfying.
Yeah. Okay.
But... watching the emotion that you go through, like you and Mary Jane are broken up. You've been broken up and haven't spoken in 6 months at the start of the game.
Oh.
And like when that happened, I was like, oh. I was hanging out with Cassie at the time. I turned around, I was like, me and Mary Jane are broken up. We haven't talked in 6 months. She was like, stop saying we, stop saying you. But that's how it feels. I think this is without a doubt my favorite video game of all time.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Damn,
High
dude.
praise.
Okay, so Mike, go back, erase the first episode where we say our first video game.
Yeah. We'll drop this back in. We'll re-upload it.
It really is. And also, like, if you're a normie gamer like me, it's perfect. I said I 100%ed it. I got the platinum trophy.
Pretty quick.
Yeah. 36 hours of gameplay, and that's including, there'd be times where I turn it on and an hour and a half would go by and I didn't even do anything. I was just web swinging around. Stopping random crimes.
So what's some of the... I guess the normie stuff is you could just do the story, right? But then the niche is like going and collecting all... do they have Easter eggs? Is that what the collectibles are?
Yeah, so the collectibles, there are backpacks from when you were... You've been Spider-Man for like 8 or 9 years at this point.
Gotcha.
Which is another thing I love.
You're
It is a
college
grown
Spider-Man.
man.
So let's say it's 2018, quote unquote. Since 2010, you've been Spider-Man.
Uncle Ben died in 2010.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
You can find his gravestone and unlock a
I'm
special
loving the writing
achievement.
of this, man. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
I cried at the
Just
ending.
subplots. Oh my
I
God.
cried standing in front of my TV at the end of this
Wow.
game. It is so emotional. And it just hits every note you want in a Spider-Man game. Like I said, like Spider-Man's a character where even when he wins, he loses.
Oh,
At the
sure.
end of this game, even though you win, you lose.
Oh, man.
So hold on, just to
Poignant.
backtrack though, to answer Mike's question. So these backpacks, these unlock the costumes.
So they unlock like tokens basically, and then you
Okay.
can use. So there's a handful of different like currencies in the game that you need to get X amount of to unlock costumes.
None of this you're putting a credit card in for.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
None at all. There will be DLC that's going to feature Black Cat,
Ooh,
a
very cool.
fan favorite love interest as well, and they're going to add 6 more suits with that DLC. So those, I'm assuming.
That will be paid for.
I'm assuming, the DLC you have to pay
Yeah,
for,
of
obviously,
course.
but I'm assuming that they're not going to hide the costumes behind any sort of paywall additionally. I think it'll probably just be one fee for the DLC.
For it all.
But in the backpacks, each one has something inside of it that's a relic from your past. So, like, you'll open up a backpack and it'll be your original web shooters.
Oh, wow.
Or it'll be electric gloves, and Peter Parker will say something like, "Oh, these are the electric gloves I put on the first time I fought Electro. Gave me the idea to add insulation to my suit. Always nice to have that." And it's like, okay, there's a little detail of the 8-year history of you being Spider-Man.
Right.
One of them is a vial of sand. And, he says, like, I've always kind of wondered if I opened this, if Sandman would be freed. And it's like, okay, so obviously there's fucking history there.
Yeah.
One of them is a vial of the lizard's blood, like Colin mentioned that I had told him.
Yeah.
So there's like all these great little details. And if you collect all 75, you get the homemade suit from the MCU.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's cool.
That is cool.
And then there's like Black Cat stakeout points. And if you collect all those, you get another suit. And there's landmarks where if you take a picture, you get landmark tokens. There's base tokens where Fisk's men have set up and you got to like clean them out.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's challenge tokens, and those are side missions led by Taskmaster. Do you know who Taskmaster is?
I've heard of Taskmaster.
Very cool Marvel villain.
Yeah, you want to give him a quick rundown on
So
Taskmaster
just
here?
kind of a general, I'm not sure who he appeared against first. I think maybe the West Coast Avengers, actually. So like
believe
a
so, yeah.
Hawkeye and
Yeah.
like a Goliath. But he's a guy who wears an all-white skull mask and basically tactical gear now.
Okay.
And he has the ability to memorize anything he sees. But as he does it, he's losing memories. So
Oh,
he can't
no.
remember your name. But because you're Captain America, Mike, he knows your fighting style now.
Right.
And he's the perfect guy to take on Captain America then.
I'm looking at him
He has
right
a
now.
photographic memory.
Very badass.
And he also runs a school for mercenaries.
So, I mean, that's a character not even that tied to Spider-Man that they're putting in there just because he totally, again, fleshes out New York's crime in such a cool, badass way.
And he also says in the dialogue, while you're fighting him, he says, "I've taken on the Avengers before. You're nothing to me."
Wow.
So there is
Slot them in there.
there's this history. And like one of my favorite abilities, now that I'm at endgame and I have maximum health and every gadget upgraded to the maximum, my favorite suit ability is quips, where
Really?
he just,
What?
every single time you block someone, you make a quip.
He just says more jokes.
Yep, and you just distract them and
that's
get people
great.
distracted. You're fighting the Vulture at one point, and he says, "Yo, Adrian."
Oh, what?
And then Electro pops up and says, "I will break you." And he's like, "Oh, you got my movie reference." Like the writing is top notch.
That's
It
awesome.
feels so much like Spider-Man. You get missions where you play as Mary Jane Watson investigating stuff. You get missions where you play as Miles. Trying to like get supplies and stuff like that.
Aunt May, that's my fantasy.
You don't play as Aunt May, but you can just go
No.
visit her. You can just go hang out in her office and look at pictures of you and Uncle Ben as kids and be like, I just want to do right. Like there's so many just heartbreaking moments in this game where it's like, if you're a Spider-Man fan and you haven't bought this yet, I don't believe you because the game went gold 2 months before it came out.
Oh my God.
And in the first
Breaking
3
records.
days, sold 3 million copies.
Wow.
So at least Sony is putting the game in the right hands.
Yeah, and there are rumors that the idea moving forward is to create. So we have the Marvel comic books universe, we have the Marvel cinematic universe, to create the Marvel interactive universe.
Wow, that makes sense.
I would love to see more characters added to these games. Like, my hope is that in the sequel we see Daredevil, we see Punisher, we see stuff like that. I see a lot of people online right now being like, give us an Iron Man game. All we want is an Iron Man game. I don't fucking want an Iron Man game. It's like the biggest thing in the subreddit right
interesting.
now.
Oh, really?
It's like, I don't even fucking want it. The only other game I would want is like a Captain America game that like explores PTSD and like does flashbacks to World War II. And like set just like this one, but set in DC or something like that.
Yeah, but you're talking about potential sequels for this guy. So I think this is the first episode we're going to have, though, that doesn't end with us saying, what's your dream game? You've got it.
This is a dream game.
Good for
right?
you. That's fantastic, Joe.
And
this is the first step. The sequels are just going to be better and better.
I cannot wait to. And like the DLC is coming in October. It's going to be 3 chapters. The rumor is that each chapter is going to be 2 to 3 hours of play.
Awesome.
So that's an additional 9 hours. That's fucking incredible.
Any negatives? Short. I've just heard that it's short.
I don't think it's short. I think people play through it so fast because it's addictive.
And then
when
again,
I said it's good
you're
for
going to keep wanting to
normies,
swing, so it's not like you're going to stop playing.
no, I 100% at the game, and like I have no intention of not stop. Like I'd go play right now if you guys left.
And it's completely
Get out
done.
of here.
Yeah.
I love this, but it's because I'm a very normie gamer. The backpacks and stuff are on the map. If you unlock,
so it tells you where the collectibles are.
If you
that's kind of some people could find that annoying. If you're very hardcore.
So if you unlock the satellites for the city, which is, the first thing I did is just went and unlocked them all. It puts everything on the map. There are 2 sets that I have not found yet. They're the landmarks that I told you about, where you take pictures of them and you say things like, I forgot how much I love photography ever since J. Jonah Jameson ruined it for me.
Right.
Also, while you're swinging through the city, J. Jonah has like a podcast that you listen to that is like Alex Jones type conspiracy theories, which is a lot of fun.
That's pretty funny.
But there are 50 secret photo spots. So I'm still working on finding all of those, and those are not on the map.
Really?
There are things like, this is a really dumb, easy example, but like the Statue of Liberty is not one of the landmarks, but if you take a picture of the Statue of Liberty, you get a secret photo. And there are 50 of those, and I found about 20.
Interesting.
And some of them are just like graffiti art. Like one of them was like J. Jonah Jameson as a baby spray painted on a side of a building. Insomniac Studios, the people who made the game put themselves in the game.
And these aren't required for platinum, though.
No, which I thought was kind of surprising.
That's
I thought
interesting.
that would be.
Secret achievement.
Yeah, that and collecting 50 Daily Bugle covers, which is also not required for platinum.
Those are just for you.
Yeah, those are just 100 additional collectibles that honestly I think maybe when they do the DLC they might mark those, or maybe finding all of those will determine whether you get the new suits or not.
Okay.
But the story, like, I really don't want to spoil anything because I went in completely clean.
I want to play it.
And and you're going to become so invested in the characters, and like you're going to love it. There are 2 post-cred scenes to the video game.
Damn.
The video game has 2 post-cred scenes.
They're doing that MCU, man.
And there's a great
That
setup
trend's not going to die.
for the sequel in both of them. One kind of sets up what the heroes might be doing moving forward, and one sets up who the villains might be. And
that's
they're
a good
both
use of post-creds.
very exciting.
Nice. So now that you're done with it, can I borrow it?
Give me a couple
think
more
he's done
weeks
with
to
it yet,
web
yeah.
swing around,
Years.
and then absolutely yes.
Still pretty attached. Yeah.
But yeah, I could not recommend it any more highly, and
Go and
I
get
think
it,
everyone
Normies.
who's played it.
Yeah,
feels
fans,
the
this
same.
is the game you want. It's sounding like.
I've seen the reviews. Yeah, if you like Spider-Man, this is it.
I think we'll probably be talking about Game of the Year here.
I'd say so. Yeah. I mean, God of War is going to be up there too.
Red Dead, depending on
We'll see
I
if
think
they
Red
can
Ted's
pull it
going to
off.
shit the bed.
Oh no!
Is that a hot take?
Yeah, it's a hot take to me.
It's the game I'm most looking forward to at the
I think it's
moment,
gonna
and I
shit the
agree
bed.
with you, Joe.
Yeah.
Everything that comes out for it, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's the direction that should be going.
Nope. I really think that's going to be the first major misstep.
For
Well,
Rockstar.
I mean, I hope not.
Or another.
but,
Yeah, we'll debate that when it comes out.
yeah. Well, maybe we should do a Rockstar episode.
That'd be good. Or westerns. Yeah.
should do a Westward.
Anyway, westward we go. Should we wrap up?
Yeah, let's
web
wrap
of
it up.
Spider-Man.
君はなぜ君はなぜ戦い続けるのか命をかけて一筋に無敵の男スパイダーマン
So we've talked all about Spider-Man, one of my personal favorite heroes. I think I've conveyed in the episode how much he means to me, and what the character has to offer general fans. Any final thoughts here before we web swing on out of here?
My final thoughts are: there's so much more Spider-Man that I don't know about that I'm interested in. Like the Miles Morales stuff, haven't read any of it. Spider-Gwen, fascinated by that. Spider-Man Noir, like that's a cool take on it too. So, Peter Parker Spider-Man, everybody, that's what they're familiar with, right? I'm now really fascinated with this expanded Spiderverse.
I think the Spider-Verse book might be something you want to check out. There's Edge of Spider-Verse, and then Spider-Geddon, I think is what it's called, the one that's coming now.
Spider-Geddon is the upcoming
Nice.
Dan Slott book, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I love Spider-Man. He was like my favorite superhero growing up as a kid because he's relatable, and I'm really stoked to try the game, and it's Spider-Man. Like,
Hell yeah.
come on.
Doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
Colin here, I'll give my final wrap-up thoughts. A character with a relationship we didn't even mention through this podcast, Deadpool.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Here's two
Spider-Man
idiots that are
/Deadpool.
like technically in love with each other, in an on and off sort of way. And a lot of people keep saying, get Ryan Reynolds over to Tom Holland. Let's bring that inappropriate relationship. I could kind of half see that. It would be very interesting. Spider-Man, once again, people have said it before, should be said on this podcast, is the only superhero who chose to call himself man. It could have been Spider-Boy, Bucky Boy, Liberty Lad, all that bullshit like Joe said about the sidekick stuff. Spider-Man goes against that. He's a young man who wants to do the right thing, stands up. With great power comes great responsibility. I mean, we can all quote that, right?
Yeah.
I love Spider-Man. He teaches me a lot, and he's going to keep teaching me a lot.
Yeah, those are words to live by. Great power, great responsibility.
There's people who don't even know that that's attributed to Spider-Man, but they know that quote.
Yeah.
That's how much it's permeated culture. Not just pop culture, like you said. Spider-Man is American culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really beyond comic books or video games or movies. I mean, that's, American mythos, man.
Yeah.
The character means the world to me. It's something that I always look to when I'm having a rough time. Is someone who, even has superpowers, but things still don't go his way. I mean, he's just your everyday guy, and I think there's something really relatable and inspiring about that. The Parker luck is something that I love, man. I think about it. I do. Like that's something I like to put in the back of my head. It's like, oh, Spider-Man can get through it on the day-to-day. Like, you got to get through it.
Yeah, the dice don't always come up for him.
Yeah, and, you got to keep rolling. We lost Steve Ditko this year, which is something worth mentioning. I mean, he was an icon.
Half of his soul is gone.
Yeah.
Half of Spider-Man's gone. Things aren't going great for Stan Lee, guys. Unfortunately.
And these guys, I mean, like, they mean the world to me and so many other fans out there. The Spider-Man game is dedicated to Steve Ditko at the end. It says, in loving memory, with one stroke of the pen, he made the world amazing.
Wow.
Which is, really touching. And I think they did a great job honoring his legacy.
That's great.
As much as it means to me and as heavy it is emotionally, it's also just really fun. I mean, he's a fun character. He's snarky. He has a good time. He's not always brooding, even though he's kind of always sad, which I love. Couple recommendations. Spider-Man Blue is a book all about dealing with the loss of Gwen Stacy.
Jeff Loeb said on Valentine's Day, very emotional, very
really,
heartfelt.
really good look at the character and like what he means to deal with that great power and that great responsibility. Brian Michael Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man run. Start at issue 1 and go all the way up to and through Miles.
Don't read any spin-offs. You don't need to know Ultimate X-Men. You don't need to know what's going on in the world. Spider-Man is the sure line.
And
Just
he really
follow
is
it.
the world there. Like, you know, the X-Men will pop up every once in a while. Doctor Strange will pop up every once in a while.
Doesn't matter.
You won't be confused. Just read from issue 1 all the way up. You'll watch him get bit by a spider, become the man he was born to be, and then unfortunately watch him go and a new hero, Miles, step forward.
Right.
This is a book. It's available digitally, trade paperbacks, collected volumes. Like, just go find it. It's out there. And it's 100% worth it. That was my little sisters were like, oh, you know, we'd kind of like to read Spider-Man. What do you think we should read? And I was like, Ultimate Spider-Man all the way. It's can't recommend it any higher. And Kraven's Last Hunt, Back in Black, some really cool action adventure stories that also really cut to the character. Oh, and another thing we didn't even mention, just to throw in the wrap up, that I think like hits Spider-Man as a character. When things finally started going right for him and he was going to marry his girl and everything was great, the devil literally came to him.
No, we don't talk about this.
What?
The devil came to him and said, I'll make your life better again, but you have to give me your marriage to Mary Jane.
Yeah.
What?
Aunt
You
May
have to
is
give
dead.
me your happiness.
So the devil exists in the MCU.
Mephisto, yeah.
Okay, right.
Who is the devil? But like, you know, that's literally like the Parker luck is so bad that like the devil came and took his happiness.
Yes, the devil's
Right.
like, shut up, Peter.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like, I think that's something where it's like, if you're having a rough day, man, just think about everything that Spider-Man goes through and the Parker luck, and that, you know, if he can get through it, you can get through it too.
Yeah, and at least there's not a bunch of clones of you walking around.
That's true. It could be worse.
Yeah, I wonder what the alternate universe version of me is doing right now.
Oh, 2099 Mike.
2099 Mike, right? And
He's recording a holocast.
the holocast. Last hot take, by the way. Spider-Man 2099, Batman Beyond. It is not.
No, yeah,
True,
you're right
yeah.
on
And
that.
that's kind of how I look at it.
Terry McGinnis is
Absolutely.
better than Miguel O'Hara. I would give that.
100%.
And the most interesting Spider-Man 2099 stuff is when he gets stuck in the past.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like, oh, I'm with the real Spider-Man. And
Yeah,
you're
like,
like, oh, this
that
all
stuff's
makes
way
sense.
more
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, another suggestion before we get out of here. Chip Zdarsky is writing. He just wrapped it up. His last issue just came out last week. Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, and it is a really funny book. If you're a fan of Chip Zdarsky's writing and/or art, he does both double duty on some issues. But he's one of the co-creators of Sex Criminals. Really funny guy.
A lot of crazy indie comics.
Yeah, like a lot of crazy indies, and like also the Howard the Duck run that blew up that
yeah.
people loved. He's a super cool guy too. So if you get a chance, you should definitely check that one out if you're looking for some funnier stuff that also has some really good emotion.
Oh, on
to
that
it.
note, prolific podcaster Scott Ackerman wrote a Spidey Deadpool issue, the most recent one. that
Oh,
came
yeah,
out,
yeah.
And he has a Mojoverse issue coming up in the next couple of weeks.
And
Check
that's
those
an
out, too.
ongoing book as well. So right now, ongoing, you got Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man, Miles issue number 1 coming up, and The Amazing Spider-Man, which is actually pretty interesting right now too, with Ryan Ottley on that. And Dan Slott's got Spider-Geddon and that big event
Yeah,
coming
Dan
up too.
Slott's still pushing it out. We got to give him credit too. I mean, a writer who's had it for over 10 years now.
Yep. Took us through the Superior Spider-Man and all of that. You know, like I said before, we when we do these issues, it's easy to just be like, oh, we forgot to talk about this. We forgot to talk about this, because these characters have, you know, 75 years of history, and they mean the world to us.
We should
so.
account for every moment of it.
Yeah,
You know, if
impossible.
we come back to Spider-Man, make sure you check that one out too.
Yes.
And, you know, if you like this one, a kind of a deep dive on a superhero, go back and listen to the Batman episode. Go back and listen to the X-Men episode.
Captain America.
You know, we'll give you just like this takes on the character throughout time.
Oh, and I'm sure we'll return with an amazing episode, you know, something where we talk about Spider-Man again.
Yeah,
So thanks
absolutely.
for listening, Normies. We always appreciate it. Be sure to check us out. Hit us up on all our socials, our Twitter, our Instagram.
Yep, that's going to be Mike.
Joe.
That's Colin.
Thanks, Normies.
Thwip.
was like a spider bite. Cut that out. I don't know what that was.